Chapter 967. 2 months before the new year, the weather was even colder. A light snow fell in the capital and melted as soon as it hit the ground, but it still made people feel cold. Yellow and red leaves fluttered to the ground, bringing with them endless desolation and sorrow. When small ice shards began to appear in the upper reaches of the Yellow River, the people of Ling State and Feng State were in a lively mood. The people who were affected by the disaster didn't have to spend a single copper coin, and all the resources were provided by the imperial court. They actively built new houses that were sturdier and more beautiful than before. Some families who had more people built 5 houses from the original 3 houses. They weren't afraid of the freezing ground, and they dug with picks and set fires. Countless building materials were piled up into mountains. Even the families whose houses were not crushed could take them and go back to repair or rebuild their original houses. At first, the people were embarrassed. They had already eaten Chong Pingsong's food for free, so how could they take materials for free? Why would they let the imperial court spend money on them? Later, Li Longji issued an imperial edict. It wasn't an imperial edict, which was usually issued when the imperial court couldn't help the people. Now that Li Longji had the ability to provide good conditions for his people, he wasn't convinced. In the end, he issued an imperial edict that shocked countless people. It was an imperial edict that condemned the heavens. He then told the people that the imperial court should give them money and goods. Why? It was because the people had paid their rent, and the imperial court couldn't just take the people's money and watch them suffer. The imperial power began to fight against the heavens, and the people were anxious. When the disaster struck and they ate meat porridge, they leaned toward the imperial power without much thought. The imperial edict saying that the heavens were wrong was written by Xiao Yuan, and Xiao Yuan made a draft based on Xiao Bei's words. Xiao Bei said, "You're too unreasonable. Who offended you? What else can you do when it's snowing? You're a child and don't know anything. You didn't snow when it was time for you to. Ask him, do you still want to be good?" Thus, Xiao Yuan wrote, "The people sacrifice 3 animals. Spring and autumn have not stopped, summer and winter have not stopped, yellow rice is bright, incense is far away, take the lanterns, release the boats, and worship the mountains. When have they painted black? Ask the heavens, ask if they are jealous of the human world? The human world is deep in autumn and is happy with the family. Why is it snowing? Ask the heavens, ask how many envious Shehuan is. Could it be that there is no good in the common people? How can they bear the punishment? When the heavens do evil, Huang Yupian, vast and endless, the heavens overturn." Someone from the spiritual state explained the situation to the people. After some consideration, the people realized that this was indeed the case. Damn it! They had taken all the food from the heavenly sacrifice for nothing. They might as well keep it for themselves. The emperor is still the best. She lacks clothes, food, and shelter, yet he really gives her gifts. The commoners accepted Li Longji's goodwill and accepted the gifts. They prepared to build a new home and celebrate the new year. They would work harder next year and continue to pay their rent. The officials from the Ministry of Rights were depressed. What should they do in the future? Most likely, the common people would not agree to do something in the name of the heavens. They could only endure the helplessness in their hearts, change their etiquette, and accept their fate. At this time, Li Longji was preparing to engage in a verbal battle with the officials. However, what surprised him was that the officials were very calm. No one actually objected in the imperial court. After Li Longji sent out the imperial edict, he thought that someone would smash their head against a pillar or something. Thus, he arranged for the golden guards to guard every pillar. However, the truth was that Li Longji had been discussing other matters, but none of the officials stood up to mention this matter. When the court was dismissed, he asked Gao Li Shi, and Gao Li Shi also asked someone else. Only then did Li Longji understand the reason. Less than an hour after he sent out the imperial edict, the Zhang family and Wang family sent gifts to all the officials, including those who objected to their family. At first glance, the gifts seemed very valuable. However, after being introduced, the officials realized how rare these gifts were. They were the rewards for their investment in the Ministry of Works. Each family had 5 bolts of silk and cotton woven together. They were extremely fine, and no one knew how they were made. Of course, they did not know that the Ministry of Work's secret was due to the mechanical textile machine. There was also a can of liquefied petroleum gas. It was not that the Ministry of Works could not make it, but that they did not want this technology to be leaked. Once the door was opened, the fire would be ignited. If the door was slightly opened, the fire would be ignited. Along with the gift was a new set of hot pot utensils that specifically used liquefied petroleum gas. It was said to be the main item of the Zhang family and Wang family restaurant. The officials found it novel and thought that using this utensil would increase their value. Only Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan knew that no one would be willing to use this lousy utensil when eating hot pot. It was convenient, used electricity, and had to be made of charcoal. However, they could not use it. The process of refining petroleum gas was a byproduct. If they did not use it, it would be gone. It was also good to use it to cook. At the very least, they could use it to make some dishes. When the utensils and liquefied petroleum gas were sent, the officials were happy. Even the officials who objected to the Zhang family and Wang family temporarily chose not to oppose and not to compromise. Along with the utensils, there was also a sentence. The person who sent the utensils said, "These 2 utensils were sent by His Majesty when he looked at the heavens and lamented that it was not easy for the officials." The officials were not stupid and immediately understood. His Majesty looked at the heavens and then sent the utensils. Between the heavens and His Majesty, there had to be a choice. To accept the utensils or to give up the utensils and make trouble for the emperor. All the officials made a decision within a few breaths of time. They removed the other words in the sentence. Confucius did not speak of strange forces and gods, and only left, Confucius did not speak of gods. They also made a new translation and explanation, which meant that Confucius did not speak of gods and gods. I am too smart. If the officials were so smart earlier, they would have been the top scorer in the imperial examinations. After Li Longji heard Gao Lisha's words, he was speechless. He was too spineless. Wasn't it just that if they objected, they might not get a return on their investment and would lose out on the benefits of the Zhang family and Wang family? Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are truly selfless. Some officials even spoke ill of them behind their backs, but they did not take revenge and still sent the utensils and liquefied gas jars. How rare! Li Longji praised them in front of Gao Lisha. Gao Lisha hesitated for a moment before saying, "Your Majesty, actually, there are some discrepancies in this matter." "Speak." "The jars aren't important. What's important is the gas inside. The jars don't cost money, and the return on investment is that once the gas is used up, a portion of people will have to spend money to get a second one. It's said that it's not easy to get a second one, and a single jar costs 10 strings of cash. Furthermore, because we can't reveal the secrets of Great Tang's pressure-bearing technology, the jars can't contain too much gas. It's estimated that after a few hours a day, it will be gone in half a month." Gao Lisha explained. He had many jars in his family, and if he couldn't use them, he would exchange them for them. How could his godson ask him for money? However, his heart still ached at the price. 10 strings of cash. Half a month would be gone in half a month. Li Longji looked at the sky and thought for a moment before saying, "Half a month, 10 strings of cash, it's actually so cheap." "Cheap?" Gao Lisha swallowed. "Your Majesty, do you think you're the one who doesn't feel bad about spending more than 500,000 strings of cash for spiritual state? That money isn't yours. I've misspoken." "Ah, right, I didn't earn the money myself. If it were a few years ago, I would feel bad for spending 500,000 strings of cash. Xiao Bao didn't care, so I don't care. 10 strings of cash isn't a lot, right?" Li Longji gestured for Gao Lisha to not apologize and did a self-analysis. He found that it wasn't that money wasn't important, but that it was too easy to earn. Gao Lisha said, "How is it not a lot? Millet is worth 12 strings of cash. 10 strings of cash is equivalent to half a house of land." Yes, the Senongsi contributed a lot to increase the yield of each mu, and Great Tang ate fewer and fewer millets. Then, maybe it's because liquefied gas is precious. Li Longji was still looking for an excuse. Gao Lishe rubbed his face with his hands. Your Majesty, Xiao Bao once told me that the refining technology couldn't keep up, and the liquefied gas storage wasn't perfect when decomposing oil. Most of it was burned and thrown away. Don't you think it's precious? Li Longji frowned and asked, why throw it away? Since it can be used to cook, why not use it? Xiao Bao said that it can't be used unless someone queues up to buy the liquefied gas. The gas isn't important, but it's hard to make the jars. If we use pipes, the pipes won't be easy to get. Xiao Bao said that the investment is not proportional to the gains. Gao Lishe also felt that it was a pity that so much gas was wasted, but he understood that he couldn't stop the Ministry of Works. In order to save gas, he stopped the Ministry of Works' research. If that was the case, Xiao Bao would probably go crazy with anger. Li Longji wasn't clear about the specific situation, but he knew that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had a special insistence on certain things. Even if it was a waste of money, they had to push forward the development of the industry. This was how the diesel engine technology of 4 million strings of cash was created. A small country's annual revenue was used to create such a thing. If it were anyone else, they would have been scolded to death. But so what if Zhang Xiaobao lost? Li Longji thought about it and suddenly realized that he couldn't understand Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. It was as if the two of them weren't from this world. They didn't seem to care about anything, but they also seemed to care about everything. They knew when to advance and when to retreat, they knew how to compromise, but they never backed down. When he was with the two of them, he didn't feel the respect of the other ministers. But why did they want to push the imperial power? Li Longji, who really couldn't understand, shook his head and decided not to think too much about it. It was tiring. He said to Gao Lishe, find Xiao Bao and ask him if we can build a pipe in the capital. If it's possible, let him take the money from the bank. We can think of it. If everyone in the capital uses liquefied petroleum gas, there will be less smoke and life will be more convenient. Your subject will remember. Your Majesty, Xiao Bao said that we can set off the day after tomorrow. The fastest is 15 days for a round trip, and the slowest is 20 days. He wants Your Majesty to prepare in advance. Gao Lishe nodded and reported again. Ah, we're leaving? What should we prepare? Li Longji was happy again. Going out to play was such a good thing. He was bored of being cooped up in the palace all day. Xiao Bao said that he wants Your Majesty to be mentally prepared. He has prepared the other things. Also, how many guards do you want to bring? He can arrange it. Gao Lishe said. Li Longji thought for a moment and said, indeed, the preparation of a trip is nothing more than logistics. Who dares to compete with Xiao Bao in logistics? We will bring Empress Wang and Wu Huifei, as well as the eunuchs and palace maids. That's all. What about the guards? Gao Lishe asked. What guards? With Xiao Bao around, do we need to bring our own guards? If the two of them have other thoughts, how many guards will we bring? That was Jili province. To be honest, it was the world of the two of them. We will bring 100,000 soldiers. Can you guarantee that we will be fine? If the two of them don't have other thoughts, why should we bring people? We took a gamble at Xuanwu Gate. Why can't we take another gamble today? Li Longji's words were powerful and resonant. Gao Lishe was stunned, but then he nodded immediately. Your Majesty, I will gamble with you. I will gamble with you. The news that Li Longji didn't bring any guards soon reached Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's ears. Zhang Xiaobao nodded and said admiringly, you are indeed an emperor of a generation. Good, you have guts. You are not worse than Mao. If he dares to go to Jili province with me, I will give him an iron country. Xiao Bao, in fact, is also gambling. What's the name again? Oh, it's called persuading the king to change his mind. It is really a gamble. Well, let's not care about him. He can think what he wants. If he thinks too much, he will not have a good time. It has nothing to do with us. Let's discuss and see if we can arrange a big sand table on the ship. The generals are so anxious. I am puzzled. So what if they defeat me? Are they that impatient? Wang Wan considered the matter of the sand table and planned to start the military examination with the generals on the ship. Yes, it is easy to arrange a sand table. A 4-story ship is easy to do. I am almost ready. Do we need to call our people and practice a few more sets? Zhang Xiaobao didn't care about what Li Longji was thinking. He pushed the information of a Daluo on the table and said. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Li Longji, Empress Wang, Wu Huifei, a group of maids and eunuchs, and Gao Lisher met up with Zhang Xiaobao and the others by the river. What surprised Zhang Xiaobao was that Wu Huifei actually brought her son, Li Qing, who was about the same age as him and Wang Wan. To be precise, he was a little older than Zhang Xiaobao. She was too bold. It seemed that people who could play in the palace were not ordinary. Empress Wang also saw Li Qing, but she didn't care. She only focused on her children. After seeing her son Li Jun and daughter Panner, she, who hadn't seen them for a long time, wanted to go forward and hug her children. But she also knew that children didn't remember people. Once they left for a long time, it was very rare for them to recognize their parents. Of course, there were special cases. For example, a mother and her son were connected. As long as they saw each other, the indescribable kinship would appear. Mother, why don't you go and see Juner and Panner? Wang Wan asked beside Empress Wang. She was Empress Wang's adopted daughter. Of course, she had to accompany Empress Wang. I'm scared. Empress Wang said 2 words. Mother, don't worry. They will definitely remember you. Wang Wan promised. Empress Wang chose to believe. Step by step, she walked towards her son and daughter, who were playing happily with Xiao Bei. Do you think it's the connection between mother and son? Wang Wan asked. Not all of them. Zhang Xiaobao replied. Some of them don't immediately form a sense of closeness. This seems to be a kind of genetic magnetic resonance. Another one is potential. You know about sleepwalking, right? I know. When sleepwalking, under normal circumstances, the sleepwalker's physical limits will be displayed. Scientists have studied this through drugs. When sleepwalking, the reaction speed of the human subconscious is faster than one would expect. It's just like how when some people are sleeping, a long time will pass in a slight trance. Some people feel that a long time has passed, but in the end, only a few minutes have passed. In theory, sleepwalkers are almost invincible. They can feel the slow transition of time and distance. Then, their muscles, nerves, and bones will react to the limit. In other words, they can see the trajectory of a bullet. Just like in a science fiction movie, at a certain moment, everything else stops. In contrast, they can do whatever they want. Therefore, many sleepwalkers can cross a very long distance. They can even fall from a height of more than 10 meters without any problems. Xiaobao, tell me, why are you fine? As Wang Wan spoke, she realized that Zhang Xiaobao's ability to leap onto roofs and run on walls had something to do with what they were talking about now. Zhang Xiaobao nodded. Yes, I can perform psychological hypnosis. I can tell myself that if the height is high, then even if it's 1 meter, you will sprain your ankle. If the height is not high, even if it's more than 10 meters, in theory, your muscles and bones can reasonably distribute the force. Then, you can jump without any problems. At this point, Xiaobao took a deep breath and continued, however, I can jump a height of 15 meters, 2 or even 3, but I can't keep jumping. Other than the fact that it's easy for me to wake up from my self-hypnosis, there's another reason. What's the reason? Wang Wan asked. I've already reached my limit. You saw me jump from a height of 15 meters. It didn't hurt me, but in fact, it hurt me a lot. My cells are very tired. There's a hormone that makes my cells excited. But, it's like a drug. This hormone. I understand. Someone has studied this before. Hormones are also toxins. If I have to describe it, it's like a super efficient machine. It's just that the human body is a more precise instrument. What does that have to do with Empress Wang and the child? Wang Wan didn't need Zhang Xiaobao to finish speaking to understand. She had received such training, but she couldn't reach Zhang Xiaobao's level. It had to do with talent. Zhang Xiaobao pondered for a moment and replied, "This is subconscious. In fact, when we find someone pleasing to the eye, it's not because they are pleasing to the eye, but because their eyes, bones, and muscles are relaxed enough to make us feel pleasing to the eye. This isn't important. We can imitate it, but there's another kind that doesn't need to be imitated. If we don't look in the mirror, we don't know what we look like. But if a person has been learning how to draw, for example, Xiao Zhu, your biological sister, and you let her draw herself, without looking in the mirror, she will still look like herself after she draws. Rather than saying that it is the soul at work as in religion, it is better to say that one's subconscious has already sketched the outline of oneself. Then, when genes are passed down, the parts that look similar and the genes affect the body's endocrine system to produce odor. This odor has always existed, but as human intelligence increases, their sensitivity to odor decreases, so. Xiaobao, can I assume that people who can feel a sense of closeness are actually feeling different because they subconsciously have the same genetic growth outline, body odor, and magnetic field? Wang Wan tried to use the concept of science to describe it, not theology. Even if she and Zhang Xiaobao came to the Tang Empire, it could be attributed to the special effect of the electric wave energy of consciousness in a special environment. Yes, so you see, when Juner and Panner see Empress Wang, they can definitely recognize her and call her mother. This is a kind of deception. You said a lot of subconscious. Does it have anything to do with Li Jun and the others knowing Empress Wang? Wang Wan questioned. How does it have nothing to do with it? Zhang Xiaobao asked. You still have the nerve to say that. You asked me to draw a lot of pictures of Empress Wang from various angles, and then you asked someone to make a model. You found a person who sounded very similar to Empress Wang and put the model on her head. Then you told Li Jun and the others that you were their mother and played with them. You still have the nerve to rely on other aspects? Wang Wan understood too well. Once Empress Wang went over, the two children would definitely know each other. Zhang Xiaobao touched his nose. Is that so? Oh, then it belongs to another aspect. While the two of them were arguing, Empress Wang had already arrived less than 10 steps away from Juner and Panner. She squatted down and looked at her children with tears in her eyes, but she couldn't say a word. She was really afraid that her children would become strangers to her. When they met, they would look at each other blankly. That kind of feeling was hard to describe. However, reality was completely different from what she had imagined. As soon as Li Jun and Li Panda saw her, they immediately gave up on playing with sister Xiao Bei and ran towards her, calling her Mom. Panner had already opened her arms and was waiting to be hugged. At this moment, Empress Wang didn't know what to say. She hugged the two children in her arms and kissed them. The others were shocked. It was too strange. Especially the palace maids and eunuchs who knew that Li Jun and Panner hadn't seen Empress Wang for almost a year. They were all dumbfounded. How was this possible? Could it be that the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family were a blessed land? Could it be any more exaggerated? The few people who knew the situation really admired Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. For example, Gao Lixi, Li Longji, and Wu Huifei all knew the reason. Everything was because of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's hard work. Wu Huifei no longer had any feelings of jealousy or resentment. It wasn't that she didn't want to, it was that she didn't dare. She was clear in her heart. She believed that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan both knew what kind of person she was and why they wanted to deal with her. However, she still had to be grateful because Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't kill her. She felt that the wisest thing she had done in her life was to scheme against Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan twice. When she didn't succeed, she retreated. She didn't insist. This was because she understood Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. When they did things, they would leave a way out for others. It was just like the bridge over the river that led to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's villages. It depended on your intentions. If you didn't cross the bridge, it was fine even if you scolded them and they ignored you. If you crossed the bridge because you wanted to scheme, then it wouldn't be a stone bridge, but a bridge of helplessness. It was said that when men and women expressed their feelings, they didn't need to swear to the heavens. As long as you finished speaking and calmly walked across the bridge, it meant that you weren't lying. When you stood on the bridge and trembled, there was no need to say anything else. It was said that it was very accurate. People with ulterior motives wouldn't dare to cross that bridge. This was because that bridge pointed directly to one's heart. One step to heaven, one step to hell. Of course, if Wu Huifei asked Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, the two of them would definitely laugh. In fact, there was no problem with the bridge. The only thing that couldn't be crossed was the heart's demon. Wang Wan would also tell Wu Huifei that the bridge was useless against Zhang Xiaobao. This was because even a lie detector wouldn't be able to detect it. Even if they used drugs, it might not be successful. His psychological quality was good. If you saw him vomit blood even once, your life would be worth it. Wu Huifei had never studied psychology. Li Longji also didn't know what she was thinking. He only knew that giving the child to Xiao Bao and Cuckoo was the best choice. Because Pan was already telling a story to Empress Wang. She said that there was a mountain in front of the mountain, and on the mountain there was a hat, temple. In the hat there was a big bite, and a small bite, jump. The big bite, jump, gave the small bite, jump, to tell the story of Ho Zi, jump. The Ho Zi, jump, was, there was a mountain in front of the mountain, and on the mountain there was a hat, and in the hat there was a... Li Longji clearly knew why the two children were able to recognize Empress Wang. He clearly knew that it was arranged by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, but he never would have thought that the last time he asked the two children to play with Xiao Bei, it would result in such a result. Wasn't this too monstrous? A child who was not even 3 years old was telling a story? What kind of joke was this? How was he supposed to teach this? Gao Lisha also opened his mouth in surprise. He had no choice but to be impressed. Not to mention an ordinary teacher, if such a young child was thrown to the grand tutor of the crown prince and asked if he could teach to such an extent, who would dare to answer? Xiao Bao and Cuckoo didn't object and allowed their younger sister to play with them. The result was what they saw in front of them. Li Longji walked over to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and said to the two, "We must thank the two of you for teaching Jun and Pan. Zhang Xiaobao quickly waved his hand. "Your Imperial Majesty, this has nothing to do with me and Cuckoo. I can't teach the two children myself. Otherwise, someone will be unable to eat or sleep. That will force me to make a move. I don't want to do that. It's all Xiao Bei's 9 children. They're playing with the two children." Li Longji stared at Zhang Xiaobao and believed his words. Indeed, if people knew that Li Jun had been taught by Xiao Bao, many people would be unable to sleep. They would then come up with ideas to deal with Xiao Bao. Needless to say, if they wanted to scheme against Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, their skills were not enough. Many people had tried, but the results were very tragic. He could be said to be a pioneer, but didn't he become helpless after every confrontation? At this time, Xiao Bei pulled Xiaofang over and had someone bring a guqin with 7 strings. She arranged it properly and had Xiaofang sit there. Zhang Fang, or Xiaofang, only tried a few notes, but she didn't deviate much. At least, she didn't notice it. Her sensitivity to music made even Wang Wan jealous, because Wang Wan could hear the difference of a quarter of a note, but Xiaofang could hear it more clearly. Wang Wan estimated that it was a quarter of a note. The so-called semitone refers to the relationship between E and F, as well as B and C in the 12 equal temperament. 2 semitones make up a whole tone, starting from C and going all the way to B is called C D E F G A B, which is Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti. According to the pentatonic system, it is Gong Shang Jiaoqing Jiaozi Yu Chonggong. The corresponding C D E F G A B of the 12 equal temperaments was the whole, half whole, half whole, half whole, half one whole double. There were a total of 12 notes. A quarter of a note meant that half a note was divided into 8 parts. If the note was slightly off by an eighth, Xiaofang would be able to tell. This was because she felt uncomfortable, which meant that it wasn't harmonious. However, normally speaking, most people wouldn't be able to tell. It was already good enough to hear half a note. Unless it was a 7th degree harmony, a 9th degree harmony, or an even higher 11th degree harmony, the disharmony of a semitone could be reflected. If someone said that this semitone was incomplete because a semitone was off by half a semitone, that would definitely be abnormal. Wang Wan knew that there was a person who could. His name was Mozart. Without comparing the actual standard sound with the small letter A, he could tell if someone was off by half an eighth just based on his experience and ears. There was a time when the genius Wang Wan thought that this was just a legend. However, when she followed Zhang Xiaobao to the Tang Dynasty and heard the grassland songs, she realized that many folk songs actually had a quarter of a note in the singing process. This was because she could only hear a quarter of a note. However, when Xiaofang heard it, she could hear an even finer half of a note. According to Zhang Xiaobao's words, foreign things can only be bragged. Don't think that they're really that awesome. If you don't believe me, I can find a shepherd to compare with them. Let's see whose tone is more ethereal. Compared to the vastness of the snowy mountains, church music is nothing. Have they ever seen a real eagle? Do they want to resonate and fly above the clouds? They say that the dolphin sound is good, but how many people can resonate? The truly amazing one is Xiantianyu. Do they think that they're amazing just because they can play a few coloratura in an opera? Have the male and female voices in the Peking opera spoken yet? Wang Wan once said that Zhang Xiaobao was a nationalist. He always said that his own things were good. Then, she asked Zhang Xiaobao if he knew how wide the range of the violin was. Zhang Xiaobao said at that time, "I don't know the 4 octaves of the violin. I only know that the horse-head zither can make a camel cry. I don't know how high the resonance of the organ can be. I only know the depth of the chimes. I also don't study the rap of foreign blacks. I only know what is called shulabeo." At that time, Wang Wan felt that even if she played the flight of the bumblebee with the violin, Zhang Xiaobao would still say that the guangxing of the eru was pleasing to the ear. If he were to say that the horns were distant, Zhang Xiaobao would definitely say that the horns were profound and that there was no way to communicate with them. You could say that Zhang Xiaobao didn't know anything, but he knew everything. He could even name all the instruments and vocal arrangements in Western music. Then, he would take out his ethnic instruments to mock Western instruments. What kind of person was he? If you said the horizontal flute, he would say the bamboo flute. If you said the clarinet, he would say the vertical flute. If you said common with rich background music, he would say the flowing water from the guzheng. Anyway, it was best to use things that belonged to one's own family. Other people's things could be used, but they would definitely not praise you. When Wang Wan was recalling, Xiaofang had already started playing. It was the Spring River Moonlit Night that Wang Wan had taught her. Originally, this song had the name of a poem, which was said to cover the whole of Tang. However, Zhang Xiaobao had written a song line with many words, more than Bai Juyi's Song of Everlasting Regret. Wang Wan really couldn't bear to hurt Zhang Xiaobao, so she didn't mention his Spring River Moonlit Night. After all, when Zhang Xiaobao wrote the song line, he was busy with other things. It was impossible for him to only work on words. Wang Wan believed that Zhang Ruoxu didn't have the ability of Xiaobao. Lob lolop do relaso so solop dorami mi remiso mizolop la dor remi. Xiaofang's music had already started. Without any other accompaniment, the Spring River Moonlit Night solo really gave people a feeling of coming from afar. In fact, the difference between zither wasn't too big. It was just a matter of the material of the strings and the resonance of the resonance box. Most of the problems could be solved by industrial means. The only problem was that Wang Wan liked the violin. The wood for the piano was easy to choose, but good wood for the violin was hard to find. The most standard kind of wood needed to be soaked in seawater. If it didn't rot after soaking, then it would be made according to the feeling. Actually, it was the density of the chemical reaction. The requirements for the zither might have similar conditions, but it wasn't necessary. The person's playing skills wouldn't change much when the difference between the instruments wasn't big. When Xiaofang played, the surroundings became even quieter. There was no way to not be quiet, because the mood of this song was like that. It was a pure pentatonic mode. Li Longji liked to play the jie drum. When he heard it, he thought of the rhythm of the drum and was completely immersed. Jun and Pan, danced with the song. This didn't need to be taught, because everyone would have a reaction to the sound, unless they were deaf. In fact, even the truly deaf had a sense of rhythm. The sound of the drum didn't completely require the ears. It had a vibration frequency with the human body and could be transmitted through the skin to affect the heartbeat of the person. Junior and Pander's dance was honestly not good to look at. It didn't have the stretch and naturalness of dance art, but they were immersed in it and could step on the rhythm. Wang Wan's evaluation of this was that this was the true stretch and naturalness. Naturalness wasn't a show of strength or stretching, but relaxation and nervousness. There was no need to deliberately do it. Even if you rolled, it was still art. It was impossible to pursue perfection. If it was perfect, there would be no art. True art was regretful. Without flaws, it would lose its characteristics. No one who saw it laughed at it. It wasn't because of Li Jun's and Pan Er's identity, but because of their age and movements. For such an old child, even if they cried or laughed, they would be cute, let alone dance. Even if it was snowing and the ground was slippery, they would still be different from adults. In the snowy north, children wore very thick clothes, like balls. When they fell, they would always roll a few times. It was very fun. A 60-year-old could laugh at the actions of a 30-year-old, but a 30-year-old definitely couldn't laugh at the movements of a 2-year-old child. This is... Li Longji turned to ask Zhang Xiaobao. This is Xiao Bei's matter, I don't care. Since you gave Li Jun and Pan Er to Xiao Bei and the other 9 children, I agree, Zhang Xiaobao replied. Zhang Xiaobao's meaning was very clear. This matter wasn't done by him, so it had nothing to do with him. If you want to know the details, ask Xiao Bei and the others. It really has nothing to do with you? Li Longji asked in disbelief. It's true, Zhang Xiaobao said with certainty. Then how should we thank Xiao Bei and the others? Li Longji asked. Zhang Xiaobao understood Li Longji's meaning. Li Longji didn't want to pay, not because he lacked money, but because once he did, it would break the rules of the game. It was clear just by looking at Xiao Bei and the others' clothes and decorations. The imperial court definitely wouldn't make such things for them. Xiao Bei could wear them because their clothes were made according to their own ideas by their family. Li Longji didn't say anything. How could the current him care about this kind of thing? Even if Xiao Bei wore the dragon robe, he would at most tell him in private that he couldn't wear it. It was easy to be seen by others and cause a lot of trouble. He wouldn't punish Xiao Bei and say that Xiao Bei wanted to rebel and so on. Li Longji knew that the Zhang and Wang families wouldn't rebel. If they wanted to rebel, they wouldn't have waited until now. Thus, he was very tolerant of Xiao Bei and the others. If they wanted to wear it, then wear it. Was he not allowed to let the children be happy? Chapter 968. Wu Huifei looked on enviously from the side. She could imagine that it was not important who the crown prince was. What was important was who could enter the eyes of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Not to mention the son of the empress, even if it was the former prince of Huaining, Li Sun, and Zhang Xiaobao, who had interacted more often, how many people were on tenterhooks? Now, he was still in the Bohai commander-in-chief's office and had not returned to Suzhou. Qing, go and meet him. Wu Huifei was so bold. She clearly knew that Zhang Xiaobao and Empress Wang were close, but she still dared to bring her son here. Li Qing knew the relationship between his mother and the other party. He braced himself and went over to greet Zhang Xiaobao. Xiaobao, I've always heard about you. It's good that I can finally meet you today. Zhang Xiaobao was quite familiar with Li Qing. It was not that they had met often, but the other party involved a person, Yang Furong. Li Qing was Yang Furong's first husband. Wang Wan had already explained the situation to Zhang Xiaobao. Li Qing still had another name, Li Mao, which meant that his wife was Yang Furong and Yang Yuhuan. This was a person that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were very wary of. After meeting, they had to firmly suppress him and not give Li Longji any chance. However, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were not very interested in this matter now. With them around, who could cause trouble? Wang Wan felt that Li Longji was wrong to steal his son's wife, so she had to help him. How pitiful. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Li Qing with pity and said, Okay, what are you busy with now? You're not in Jiannan, are you? Li Qing did not know that Zhang Xiaobao had a good impression of him because he was a coward in history. Hearing Zhang Xiaobao speak, he felt that Zhang Xiaobao was a good person and easy to communicate with. No, I'm currently in charge of Haozhou in Hunan province. I've troubled you a few days ago. Really? Zhang Xiaobao turned to ask Wang Wan. Wang Wan carefully recalled and shook her head. Where? It was decided a few days ago. Li Qing explained to Zhang Xiaobao and Zhang Xiaobao. Oh, then what happened a few days ago has nothing to do with you. It's not troublesome at all. The Ministry of Justice, the Supreme Court, and the Censorate are in charge of the lives of the arrested officials. I'm just going to take a look. You are skilled in archery? Zhang Xiaobao warmed up to Li Qing. He found that Li Qing was still very honest. She did not rely on her mother to be arrogant and despotic. Li Qing was confused by Zhang Xiaobao's enthusiasm. He did not know what Zhang Xiaobao was thinking. If he knew, he would be very helpless. His mother was imperial concubine, but there was still the empress. What's more, who would dare to be arrogant in front of Zhang Xiaobao? Li Qing was stunned and quickly replied, I'm skilled. Do you want to hunt? Yes, but you don't need to be skilled. We don't use bows and spears. We can't ride horses in the mountains. Don't always think about riding a horse. You should practice your spear on the road. Don't hit people. Zhang Xiaobao said something that made people speechless. Since you said it was useless, why did you ask him? Wu Huifei raised her eyebrows. She could not understand why Zhang Xiaobao was so enthusiastic. Li Longji did not pay attention to it. He just watched his son and daughter perform. In less than half a month, Xiao Bei had already trained the two children to the point where they were almost as good as her. She always liked to show off in front of others. Pan was very smart. She already knew how to do math. She knew that 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 minus 1 equals 1, 1 plus 1 equals 2, 1 plus 1 equals 3, 3 equals 1 minus 1 equals 1. When the adults heard this, they felt it was very complicated. Xiao Bei patiently corrected them over and over again. From time to time, she would accompany the two children and laugh foolishly. Xiao Fong played the zither on the side, making people feel more lively. She played the song, Spring River Moonlit Night, over and over again. She only knew this one song and never got tired of it. Wang Wan accompanied Empress Wang and Wu Huifei to chat. Dignified and elegant, they talked about the fabric of the clothes, the workmanship of the jewelry, and so on. If Wu Huifei did not know about Wang Wan's family, she would have thought that she was born in a famous family. Of course, she did not know that Wang Wan was born in a rich and powerful family. She had to learn diplomacy from a young age. When the fleet was ready, the group of people boarded the ship. They lifted the anchor, left the shore, and went downstream. The west wind blew, making the sails creak. In the cabin, Empress Wang first accompanied the two clingy children to play with building blocks. When the children were sleepy, they climbed onto the bed and fell asleep. Only then did Empress Wang have time to go to the other cabin to thank Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. She thanked the two for being willing to play with the children and thanked them for their guidance. Cuckoo, it's been hard on the two of you. Jun and Pan are not like other children. I've troubled the two of you a lot. Empress Wang thanked Wang Wan. Wang Wan denied, it has nothing to do with me and Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao saw it just now and said that we have to find a way to make Jun and Pan play. It's not good for the children to be too obedient, so Xiao Bei will be responsible. It was the first time Empress Wang heard such a thing. Wasn't it good for the children to be quiet and stable? She didn't understand, so she didn't think about it. She believed that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo wouldn't harm her children. She would just let them play. She asked with concern, the military exam may be held on the ship. Cuckoo, are you ready? Almost. It's best to wait for a while. When we're on the shore, let them deepen their theoretical knowledge on the ship. Let them compete with each other first and be more familiar with each other. Wang Wan had a look of, I'm doing it for their own good. Empress Wang didn't say anything else. She chatted with Wang Wan again. In fact, the generals couldn't wait anymore. They rubbed their hands and wanted to fight. A few days ago, they were tortured by them. As a general who led the army to war, they didn't test the military formation and ranks. Instead, they had to test the relationship between the army and the people. When they finally got through it, they found someone to discuss it and colluded with each other. Only then did they finish the written test. In the end, the emperor had to go out again. It was almost the new year. What was the point of going out? They had to solve the seasickness problem first before the military exam. For a while, the generals were still pondering. They thought that Wang Wan would take this opportunity to start the exam immediately. In the end, they got the news that they should familiarize themselves with it. Moreover, the sand table was from the Zhongnan circuit. This made them feel relieved. It was a good buffer. Only Li Longji and Gao Lishe knew Zhong Xiaobao and Wang Wan. They thought that the two of them were definitely up to no good and would come up with bad ideas again. The two of them muttered to each other but couldn't figure it out. They could only put it aside for the time being. Wang Wan accompanied Empress Wang. Li Longji called Zhong Xiaobao over. He first asked with concern, Xiaobao, have you recovered from your injuries? Okay, it's been half a month. If it's still not good, I'll have the people of the medical college die with me. They can make my illness worse. With such ability, I'll take them to harm others. Zhong Xiaobao patted his stomach to prove that he was very healthy. That's good. Li Longji already knew that Zhong Xiaobao had recovered from his illness, so he tried to find a topic to talk about. Zhong Xiaobao should have followed up with a question, but he didn't say anything. He smiled bashfully and waited. Junior and Panda, I'm very relieved to see you two today. Xiao Bei is really capable. Li Longji started talking about his children. Zhong Xiaobao was still bashful. Yes, Your Majesty is right. Have you eaten? Li Longji was really at a loss for words. He suddenly asked the usual greeting. I've eaten. Is Your Majesty hungry? Zhong Xiaobao was about to get up as he spoke. Li Longji was hungry, so he had to go cook. He really owed Li Longji something from 800 years ago. Li Longji hurriedly stopped him. I've eaten. I'm not hungry. I just drank a big bowl of shredded potato soup before I came out. It tasted very good. Yes, I also like to make shredded potato soup with a layer of chopped green onions and oil on top. I also like to make radish strips, taro heads, pickles, and dry pancakes with a pan. It's the simplest and most acceptable combination. Many people will eat until they're full. Zhong Xiaobao wasn't afraid that Li Longji would talk to him about food. He could choose any of the 8 major cuisines. Li Longji didn't want to talk about food, so he was silent for a while. After a quarter of an hour, he asked Zhong Xiaobao, who was about to fall asleep, Xiaobao, you planted potatoes in the northern part of Hebei province. It's said that you planted a lot of them. Do you still plan to go back? This was the main topic, so Zhong Xiaobao paid attention to it. Whether I go back or not depends on my father's arrangements. If I enter the imperial court, my official position can't be low. However, my father's official position is higher than mine. With father and son in the same court, I might have to side with my father. It's easy to give people the impression that we're in control of the imperial court. Then, what if you send your father out? Li Longji suggested. He planned to keep Zhong Xiaobao in the imperial court so that he could ask him about it. After all, being an official in the capital was also a kind of honor. Zhong Xiaobao shook his head. Why don't I continue to stay outside? My father's role outside is not as good as staying in the Ministry of Works. I'm fine with going anywhere. I'm not picky. Yes, I know you're not picky. The people in the places you go will enjoy life. However, no matter how much you manage, it's just one province. How many provinces and prefectures can you manage? I can't let you manage half of the country. Li Longji was speaking the truth. Gao Lishe had already discussed with Li Longji before Zhang Xiaobao came. At this time, he played along and asked, Xiaobao, I see that you like to stay in the Bohai Commander-in-Chief's office. Is that place important? Zhang Xiaobao lowered his head and thought about how to explain the importance of the Northeast to Li Longji and his godfather. At present, the Northeast didn't have any heavy industry, so it couldn't be considered a heavy industry. The resources weren't particularly good either. Other than animals and plants, Great Tang also had other resources. If one had to say that there were good resources, there were oil and coastal resources. There weren't many other places. However, he was only using the oil that was easy to find for research. He didn't plan to exploit Great Tang's energy and mineral resources. He wanted to leave them for future generations. When did they say that they weren't capable enough? If they couldn't get what they wanted from others and were beaten back, then they would just pick their own. If they were beaten back, then there was nothing they could do. They couldn't just wait for their ancestors to do everything. Their ancestors couldn't control the future generations. If there was really something that was hard to find in other places, it would naturally be the amber produced by the Fushun coal mine. It belonged to the economic category. It could be sold for money, but it had no other use. There was a fly in it, so its value could be raised. The importance of the Northeast lay in its climate and geography, as well as, I want to go and snatch energy. The Bohai Commander-in-Chief's manor continues north and east. There are many energy sources and tribes there. I can't wait for them to grow stronger and leave behind a hidden danger for Great Tang. I have to eliminate them or assimilate them. Zhang Xiaobao pointed in the direction of Russia and said to his godfather. Gao Lishe was still puzzled. You've always wanted to occupy territory, but have you considered population? Without enough people, who would be willing to go north with you? The further north you go, the colder it gets. Li Longji also nodded in agreement. I don't intend to occupy the entire world tomorrow. There are many new species now. Other than those from Duoshi, there are also those that were found from distant places. I can wait for population to increase, but I have to hold on to my current position. The cold isn't a problem. I have to wear more clothes, live in a warm house, eat more oily food, and drink more wine. Otherwise, if I really lose that place, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Zhang Xiaobao couldn't talk about history with Li Longji and Wang Chong. He could only express his determination. Li Longji couldn't guess why Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were so stubborn about a place that seemed to have no future, but they were still prepared to support it. Then you should go back and be a regional commander. Don't just stay there and not come back. Come to the capital 2 or 3 times a year and cook for me. Don't you want to build a railway there? It'll be more convenient and less time wasted on the road. Li Longji couldn't bear to part with Xiaobao and Wang Wan in Beijing. He would feel very safe if Xiaobao and Wang Wan were to stay in Beijing. He wouldn't have to worry about anything. He could call them over for a meal and chat, and he would be able to get good ideas immediately. It wasn't easy to have someone to talk to. This was especially so for Xiaobei and the others. Although they liked to show off in their official robes, they didn't show the emotions of an official in front of him. They were afraid of saying the wrong thing. They were very peaceful and were closer to him than his own children. When they ate together, they were unrestrained and called him Uncle Emperor. This made him feel less lonely. It was just like the book of poems written by Wang Wan. Oh, she said she copied it. The most heartless imperial family. Almost everyone was afraid of him. Only Zhang Xiaobao and his siblings were not afraid of him. It was rare. Zhang Xiaobao felt awkward when he heard Li Longji speak. You're a man, why are you being so sentimental with me? Seeing that Li Longji wanted him and Wang Wan to go back, he quickly rejected. Your Majesty, it's better not. Send a prince or someone from the imperial family. This subject won't go. Are you afraid that people will say that you have too much self-respect? There's no need for that. Zhuge Wuhou also had a lot of troops in his hands. He was also one of them. However, Lu Shan still ascended the throne. Your current position in the imperial court is still far from his. Li Longji was open-minded and used Zhuge Liang as a comparison. Zhang Xiaobao's eyes widened. He didn't know how to reply. Gao Lishe didn't agree with Li Longji's words. How was it far from his position? If he wasn't in the imperial court, wouldn't Xiao Bao and Cuckoo's words be of no use? Not to mention managing money, even if they took over the current position, Yuan Qianyao wouldn't even have a chance to resist. A few days ago, when Cuckoo went to Hunan province, she didn't even need to discuss with the imperial court. She could mobilize the entire Hunan province army with just a word. Although His Majesty gave her the power, she didn't say that she was no worse than Zhuge Liang. It was almost the same. She didn't need the throne. But if there was a difference, it would be that she was better than Zhuge Liang. Did Zhuge Liang know how much oil to use when frying shredded potatoes? His godson, Xiao Bao, knew. Did Zhuge Liang know how to teach children? If he really knew, Lu Shan wouldn't be like that. But look at his godson, Xiao Bao. What did he teach Xiao Bei and the others? If they could meet at the same age, Lu Shan would be bullied to death by Xiao Bei. That. Zhang Xiaobao encouraged himself and tried his best to treat himself as someone more awesome than Zhuge Liang before replying. That, Your Majesty, I don't care what others say. As long as no one stops me, I will let them say whatever they want. What I mean is, you can send a prince or something over there to hold down the fort. I will still command from afar. I have discussed with Cuckoo. This time, I will go back to the Turk's place and stay there. I will bring 100,000 soldiers there to graze and train. I will plant potatoes, corn, and so on. Then, I will exchange rice and wheat with other places in the Great Tang. For a year, I will not do anything else. I will stay there obediently. Occasionally, I will come back to see my parents. When Japan and Xinlua are settled, I will bring countless supplies and cooperate with Cuckoo to attack and eat more. Zhang Xiaobao finally spoke of his future plans. His tone was calm, as if he was chatting normally. However, Li Longji couldn't treat it as a normal conversation. As soon as Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, he sat up straight, his eyes filled with shock. No matter what, he had never thought that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo would send troops. Gao Lishe also trembled. Couldn't his godson and daughter-in-law stay put? If Zhuge Liang knew, he would definitely be jealous. He was so tired that he wanted to vomit blood. When it came to Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, it was as if they were playing. Yes, this was the feeling they gave people. No matter what they did, they seemed to be very relaxed. In the end, they either doubled the Great Tang's grain output or created medical, industrial, and other systems. Moreover, they would often plot against the country. They would look at the two of them all day, study how to eat and drink, tell stories to their younger siblings, play games with them, and then run around as if they were traveling. In the end, Tubo was gone, Turks were gone, Xinlua was crippled, and Japan was also troubled. The more Gao Lishe thought about it, the more he felt that he was right. Zhuge Liang's life was really sullen. He was busy with this and that, and he was always busy. Looking at his godson and daughter-in-law, he could even accompany the emperor for a stroll. It was all thanks to Zhuge Liang that he met Zhou Yu and Sima Yi. If he met Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, he would probably die even earlier. Li Longji had the same thoughts as Gao Lishe. He still had doubts in his heart and asked, Xiao Bao, is Japan worth so much of your attention? Can't you go to war if you don't pack up? That's not the case. Even if you don't pack up, you can still fight. However, it is difficult for the soldiers to adapt to the environment. This subject wants to transfer 100,000 soldiers from Tubo to the Turks. The changes in the climate there are even greater. This subject has to let the soldiers familiarize themselves with it before they can go to war. War is not a game. No matter how good Cuckoo's command is, she does not want to always fight a war like the one in Tubo. Who would be willing to dance on the tip of the blade for no reason? If they all fight like that, Cuckoo will die of exhaustion. After a year of adaptation, the chances of victory will be higher. This subject also wants to do something in this 1 year. We cannot let the people of Tubo be idle. We cannot stop small-scale conflicts. Firstly, it is to train the soldiers. Secondly, it is to confuse the enemy. Zhang Xiaobao said. Li Longji listened and nodded his head. He admitted that Wang Wan's battle was awe-inspiring, but he really did not want to let Wang Wan always take risks. He also understood what training soldiers was, but he could not describe the confusion. He then asked Zhang Xiaobao, "How do you confuse them? What kind of goal can they achieve? To be proud of the soldiers?" Speaking of which, things are getting interesting. Zhang Xiaobao chuckled. Chapter 969. Li Longji thought hard about it, but he still couldn't figure out what Zhang Xiaobao was talking about. Looking at Zhang Xiaobao's smile, he was certain that the so-called confusion was definitely not simple. Gao Lishe was also puzzled. "Xiaobao, stop smiling. It's scary. Tell me, how confused are you?" When Zhang Xiaobao thought about the methods he would use, he couldn't help but laugh. Hearing his godfather's question, he vaguely replied, "It's just that it's sometimes strong and sometimes weak, making people feel nervous and at ease. It's the same idea as harassing the enemy at night, but it's more fun to use." Li Longji still couldn't figure out what Zhang Xiaobao was going to do. Zhang Xiaobao continued, "Let me give you an example. If an official commits a crime, normally speaking, he should be convicted. However, I won't directly convict him. I need to find evidence and lock him up first. Through a channel, news from the outside world will be passed to him from time to time. One moment, it will be said that the emperor is angry, making him worry. The next moment, it will be said that the emperor is happy, making him feel relieved. The next moment, it will be said that the evidence is enough to behead him, making him feel fearful. The next moment, it will be said that the evidence isn't complete, making him feel hopeful. After a year and a half, he will realize that he is aging very quickly. The psychological torture is the most unbearable. I plan to do this to Duoshe." After hearing this, Li Longji couldn't help but swallow a few mouthfuls of saliva. He was thankful that the two experts had come to Great Tang and not the surrounding countries. Ruthless, this method was too ruthless. Xiao Bao wasn't even 20 years old yet, so how could he be nurtured to such an extent? How powerful were the expert's abilities? Gao Lishe's reaction was slightly better. This was because he had learned many methods of interrogation from his godson and daughter-in-law. There was a lot of that psychology, such as using strong light, or locking someone in a dark place, or using soft objects in a house to prevent them from knocking themselves to death. These methods caused more harm to the person than physical harm. If they were used with torture tools, the effect would be very obvious. That's what it means, right? I don't care. As long as it can reduce the number of casualties when the army goes over, it's fine to do more, right? Zhang Xiaobao said some comforting words. Li Longji nodded. That's right. When we return to the capital, Xiaobao, once you've confirmed your position as the champion, you should head to the Turkic Khaganate. It just so happens that the weather is at its coldest right now. You must take good care of yourself. If anything were to happen to you, my great Tang wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Don't worry, Your Majesty. I'm not risking my life. Besides, I still have to take care of Xiao Bei and the others. While taking care of them, I'm also taking care of myself. Zhang Xiaobao replied. Xiaobao, can we still eat the small garlic growing on the mountain now? We are hungry again. It would be even better if we had some wild vegetable soup. After Li Longji asked about Zhang Xiaobao's motive, he realized that he was hungry again. This startling action was very taxing on his body. I'll make it. Your Majesty, the wild vegetable soup you mentioned is cat's ear soup, right? It'll be ready in a moment. What else could Zhang Xiaobao say? He had to break up the stuffing so that the Li siblings could have a taste. This would depend on one's skills. The fried box couldn't be cooked, and it couldn't be too brittle. It had to be soft after being fried. Seeing Zhang Xiaobao leave, Li Longji said happily to Gao Lishe, "The palace doesn't have the ingredients to make it now. Only the Zhang family and Wang family can do it. Even their restaurants might not have a small garlic. In the future, when Xiao Bao is far away, where can we find food to eat? Gao Lishe agreed. Indeed, when it came to food and lodging, the best place in Great Tang was definitely between the clouds and the water. Even the Jade Sea and Silver Sand were slightly inferior. However, even better than between the clouds and the water was the Zhuangzi of the Zhang family and Wang family. The only place better than Zhuangzi could only be the main residence. Xiao Bao's greatest hobby seemed to be cooking. He was truly someone who never got tired of eating. He would always think of ways to prepare ingredients for the 4 seasons so that he could eat them whenever he wanted. Licking his lips, Gao Lishe said, "Your Majesty, since Xiao Bao went to the Turkic Khaganate, let's look for Zhang Zhong. I believe that Xiao Bao won't let Zhang Zhong suffer when it comes to food." "We won't look for Zhang Zhong. If we look for you, Xiao Bao won't suffer. Back then, when we wanted to eat something, we had to rely on you. We believe that the items in your residence aren't inferior to ours. How can the tea you drink be the same as the ones offered to us?" Li Longji directly targeted Gao Lishe. "It's the same. You've taken plenty of things from this subject. Xinyang Maojian and Westlake Longjing tea, you didn't drink the ones offered to you as a tribute. Aren't the subordinates afraid that if you get too used to it, they won't be able to answer to you?" Facing Li Longji's questioning, Gao Lishe felt somewhat wronged. However, he still had a trace of righteousness. Was it wrong for his godson to take care of him? "We're not an unreasonable person. Let's not talk about this anymore. Go and get someone to mix some cucumber and cold dishes. The other chefs will definitely be able to make it. We'll drink a cup later," Li Longji instructed. He decided not to let himself suffer. It wasn't easy for him to come out and play, and he didn't know if he would be able to find another place to go next year. If he really wanted to go out, he would have to go to the place where Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were staying. Otherwise, the officials wouldn't allow it. If it weren't for Xiao Bao and the others, he wouldn't have been able to come out. The officials were too infuriating. Could it be that they wouldn't be worried just because he was with Xiao Bao and wouldn't affect national affairs? Couldn't they go out by themselves? When Li Longji ate the box and drank the wild vegetable soup, the other people in the group also followed and enjoyed. Zhang Xiaobao made a very big pot of soup. If they couldn't finish it, they would have to share it with others. The people who felt the happiest were not the bodyguards, palace maids, or eunuchs. This was because they usually served the emperor. If the emperor couldn't finish eating, they would eat it. It had nothing to do with wastage. The main thing was that the food was better than their own food, especially the food made by Zhang Xiaobao. They were very grateful to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao would always make a portion for them to eat. After all, some of them couldn't eat on time. There was no official who could be like Zhang Xiaobao and eat with the emperor and still think about the servants. The palace maids and eunuchs thought this, so they would always pass on the news in the palace. They didn't ask for much. Sometimes, they would repay the kindness of a meal with their lives. What they ate was not the meal, but the respect of Zhang Xiaobao. They didn't think that there was anything wrong with blocking other officials when they were looking for trouble with the Zhang family and Wang family. There was nothing wrong with saying bad things about those officials. They were used to it. When they thanked someone, they would also return the favor. The ones who truly felt blessed were Fengqiao Masaro and the others. They were the ones who stirred up trouble and angered Zhang Xiaobao. Even if they failed at that time, they were still the smartest people that Japan could send. The people in Japan understood that it wasn't that they didn't work hard. It was that Zhang Xiaobao was too difficult to deal with. Zhang Xiaobao's strength was that when he didn't care, he was very peaceful. Once he paid attention to something, the troublemaker would definitely not be able to escape. No matter what tricks you used, you wouldn't be able to compete with Zhang Xiaobao. Thus, Fengqiao Masaro once again took on the responsibility of renting a ship. Other than him, there were also Yamamoto and Yamanji. They were the two people who played with the silver ore and the agricultural byproducts. They were the ones who completed the handover. After being schemed against many times, the three of them became more experienced. They tried their best to keep a low profile and not cross Zhang Xiaobao's bottom line. Since they couldn't face him directly, they could only walk around the edges. Master Zhang, please eat. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to you that we were able to eat such delicious food, Feng Qiaomasao said to the manager of the Ministry of Works in front of him. This manager was Zhang Tianyu. He was a talent who was selected from the competition. Now, he was in charge of many things in the Ministry of Works. He and some other top talents learned physics and chemistry under Wang Wan's intermittent teaching until Wang Wan's junior high school level. Yes, junior high school. Graduating from junior high school was not enough to complete 12 years of compulsory education. This was because they didn't learn about the acceleration of free fall. They only completed 9 years of compulsory education. But this level was already enough to make them worship Wang Wan. It was the same for those who studied mathematics. They hadn't come into contact with calculus and linear algebra, but they were shocked by Wang Wan's talent. When Wang Wan told them that what they were learning now was only a part of the foundation and that it was still too shallow. Even she didn't learn much, they could only sigh at how vast her knowledge was. Just like what Xiaohai had asked at that time, when one learned mathematics to a certain extent, they could be said to be omnipotent. Xiaohai's current goal was to be able to calculate the trajectory of a cannonball one day. He didn't dare to think about anything more than that. It seemed that mathematics shouldn't exist in this world. However, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan both knew that it was nothing. For real prime numbers, it was just the foundation. Just like how Zhang Xiaobao never dared to say that he was the best in the financial world, Wang Wan also felt that she was still too young. There was the solar system outside Earth, and there was the Milky Way outside the solar system. There was also. The more you learned, the more you would discover your own ignorance. Therefore, Zhang Tianyu was very humble, or rather, he had an inferiority complex. He wasn't as arrogant as when he first selected me. Just like how students like Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan could tell who was a new student and who was a senior in a famous university just by looking at their temperament. Those who had just entered the university would walk with their head held high, afraid that others wouldn't know what they were capable of. If you saw someone with a deep and humble face, you would know that they were about to graduate. They were afraid that others would ask them what they had learned. Therefore, after hearing Feng Qiao Shouji's praise, Zhang Tianyu became very nervous. He said, "I'm also lucky. To be honest, I didn't accompany you to eat Zhang Xiaobao's soup because I didn't complete the task. I failed you. Zhang-san, don't be so humble. You're just like this." Feng Qiao Shouji gave him a thumbs up. Sigh. Zhang Tianyu knew what Feng Qiao Shouji was talking about. He made the seal himself using rubber. Based on the Japanese technology, it was indeed impressive. The Japanese might not even know how to make rubber seals. However, he knew. Wang Wan had told him that other than rubber seals, there were also metal extended seals, water seals, oil seals, inert gas seals, etc. She asked him to study it. After hearing so many methods, how could he still be proud? He didn't know how high the sky was until he was above the clouds, and he didn't know how deep the ground was until he dug into the cellar. Zhang-san, this steam engine doesn't use coal. Can we use firewood? Feng Qiao Shouji didn't know what Zhang Tianyu was thinking. He had just seen the steam engine on the ship, and he couldn't wait to ask. Well, it's a long story. Zhang Tianyu didn't forget what he had told him before he came here. So, as a technician, he knew how to speak. Feng Qiao Shouji immediately took out a small paper bag from his sleeve and pushed it in front of Zhang Tianyu. Zhang-san, thank you for your hard work. Yamamoto and Yamamoto lowered their heads and cursed in their hearts. Can't you make it short? Zhang Tianyu didn't care about that. He took the paper bag and opened it slowly. I need to say something about the heating efficiency of the boiler and the pressure it can withstand in a short period of time. The paper bag was opened, and it was filled with notes worth 100 strings of coins. Feng Yu pinched the notes and estimated the amount. There were about 100 notes, which was equivalent to 10,000 strings of coins. Zhang Tianyu nodded to Wei Wei. 10,000 strings of coins could be used to make dozens of accessories. He could still keep 5% of the money, which was 500 strings of coins. Zhang Xiaobao had said earlier that he could use the money to buy things for his own research. Young Master Xiaobao, you are really smart. Zhang Tianyu was impressed. He had really bribed him. Zhang San, please continue. Feng Qiao Shoji's heart was bleeding. Money was not easy to earn. Because of Watanabe Juchiro's scheme against the Hunan province officials, Tang Dynasty had imposed a 200% tariff on Japanese exports to Tang Dynasty. At the same time, Tang Dynasty had also lowered the prices. According to the original price, every time they sold something worth 1 string of coins, they would lose 4 strings of coins. The people in Tang Dynasty were living frugally and couldn't bear to waste a single coin. But Feng Yu had to give the money away. What were the Japanese researchers doing? It was just the first generation of steam engines, and they had not made it yet. Zhang Tianyu did not care about what Feng Qiao Shoji was thinking. He had gotten the money, and he had to reveal some secrets. Actually, it's very simple. Wood is not good. Because at the critical moment, it is not burning enough, and the power of the steam engine cannot be increased by much. So how can this problem be solved? When coal is not used, it can still maintain a certain speed and efficiency. This is related to the supply of heat per unit of time. At the same time, it is also related to the heating area of the water during the steam generation process. What do you think? Feng Qiao Shoji nodded. Yamamoto and Yamamoto beside him were writing down what Zhang Tianyu said. However, this problem is not unsolvable. Whether it is coal or firewood, as long as they can provide heat, it will definitely work. If there is a difference, it is that when coal is burned, the heat produced per unit of time is continuous, but firewood is unable to do so. One is the problem of the flow of oxygen, and the other is the problem of the energy carried by the body. To give a simple example, if you spray some water at the place where the coal is burning, the fire will be stronger. If you spray water at the firewood, it will be over. Unless there is enough firewood and it is burning at the same time, right? Zhang Tianyu was not lying this time. This was the case in theory, but it would be difficult to make the corresponding changes according to the theory. He did not understand other aspects. For example, when a rocket was launched, no matter what fuel was used, the final goal was the efficiency of the unit of energy released per unit of time. Even if you used other fuels to provide oxygen when burning, the basic principle would not change. What would change would be the supporting technology, including nuclear power. This oxygen was not referring to oxygen, but the supporting conditions for combustion. Some things needed an anaerobic environment to release energy. It was very simple, but Feng Qiao Shoji was stunned. It was too professional. He said, "Zhang-san, can you go to Japan and settle down there?" "My family is under the protection of the Ministry of Works," Zhang Tianyu said. When he said this, Zhang Tianyu was already full of admiration for Zhang Xiaobao. This was because when Zhang Xiaobao told him about this, he had even warned him about the questions he might ask. "Little young master, is there anything you can't predict? Continue to tempt me, I still have something to say." Feng Qiao Shoji did not know how much research Zhang Xiaobao had in psychology. As expected, he followed Zhang Tianyu's idea and said, "Zhang-san, a good man does not have to worry about not having a wife. There are countless beautiful and considerate women in Japan, as long as I know. If I go there, can you promise not to send me back if Tang Dynasty asks for me from Japan?" Zhang Tianyu followed the script. "This Zhang-san is so important in Tang Dynasty?" Feng Qiao Shoji did not dare to guarantee. "Humph." Zhang Tianyu snorted. "Feng Qiao, you should ask the important people. I won't waste any more time." After saying this, Zhang Tianyu stood up and left angrily. This, sigh. Feng Qiao Shoji saw Zhang Tianyu leaving but could not stop him. He sighed regretfully. The 10,000 strings of coins were taken away by Zhang Tianyu, leaving only the steamed buns and soup on the table. This meal was too extravagant. After Zhang Tianyu left, he did not go back to his resting place. Instead, he went to find Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao was also drinking soup and cooking. After being smothered by the oil, he did not want to eat anything else. He made himself a bowl of ginger soup, the kind without sugar. He also cooked some prawns and ate them while peeling them. Little young master, little young master? When Zhang Tianyu found Zhang Xiaobao had already eaten 2 prawns. Did you earn money? Zhang Xiaobao asked as he passed a prawn to Zhang Tianyu. Yes. Do you have steamed buns? I have been thinking about things and did not have time to eat. Zhang Tianyu took the prawn and threw the shell into his mouth. He asked as he chewed and looked around. I don't have any. Go to the kitchen. There is still a small box of garlic in the kitchen. Dip it in the chili sauce and eat more. Don't forget to arrange for others to interact with the Japanese so that they will not give up hope. Zhang Xiaobao pointed at the things on the table and said to Zhang Tianyu. Zhang Tianyu nodded. I knew that little young master would leave something good. He gave me 10,000 strings of coins. Little young master, you eat your food. I know. I will send someone over later. Zhang Tianyu happily went straight to the kitchen and left the money. Zhang Xiaobao did not touch the money as he found it dirty. He peeled another prawn and said to himself with a smile, the good days are yet to come. What good days? Wang Wan came over with a fruit plate and heard Zhang Xiaobao's words. She put the fruit on the table and asked, the good days of the Japanese. Before the fleet arrives in Jili, they will definitely get what they want. 10,000 strings of coins. You put it away first. When the time comes, you can distribute it to others. If it is too little, the Japanese will not be happy. Why take money so seriously? Zhang Xiaobao raised his chin and motioned to Wang Wan to take the money. Wang Wan took the money and counted it quickly. Can I say that it is easy for you to talk and that a full man does not know the hunger of a hungry man? Chapter 970. The ship continued to sail on the Yellow River. The days of suffering for the Japanese had begun. Fengqiao Masato and the others didn't know that even if they didn't bribe him, Zhang Xiaobao would think of a way to let them understand the technology of the first-generation steam engine. What made them happy was that the technicians from the Ministry of Works were on the same ship as them. Furthermore, no one was watching over the technicians from the Ministry of Works, so they could easily come into contact with them. When will we have so many technicians in Japan? If we can bring all of them back to Japan, we won't be suppressed by Great Tang. After sending off another person from the Ministry of Works, Fengqiao Masato wrote down the technology that the other party mentioned. He was so tired that he shook his writing arm and said to Yamamoto and Yamanji. Yamamoto's gaze was still on the door of the cabin. From there, he had just spent 3,000 strings of cash. He calculated in his heart. 3 days. In 3 days, he had spent a total of 50,000 strings of cash. There was still more than half of the technology that he hadn't grasped, so he had to continue spending. Yamamoto was also under great pressure. He had to bring the technology back. On the sea, speed was life. Those who hadn't seen how fast a steam engine ship was would never understand how powerful it was. Once the battle started, the steam engine ships could easily circle to the upwind side. Even if they didn't have cannons, they could still shoot a wave of flaming arrows with the wind. A ship without a steam engine couldn't run away, couldn't catch up, and had nowhere to hide. If they didn't work hard to develop the technology, when Great Tang attacked, they wouldn't even have the ability to defend themselves. Great Tang won't let us go. We have to learn from Great Tang and build our own industrial system. Before we left the capital, didn't the Great Tang Emperor say that we can exchange labor for points? He wants to send 200,000 people over from Japan. Yamamoto thought about the exchange of labor for technology and felt that he should make a decision to send people over to Great Tang. Yamamoto and Fengqiao looked at each other, and their eyes were filled with worry. Yamamoto sighed. This probably has something to do with Zhang Xiaobao. Could it be a trap? Even if it's a trap, we have to jump into it. Even if all 200,000 people die in Great Tang, as long as we can exchange for the technology, they will still be proud. The great Tang of the past wasn't like this. Feng Qiao wasn't stupid. He knew that Zhang Xiaobao was scheming, but he couldn't figure out what Zhang Xiaobao, who could mobilize the power of a country, was thinking. Yamamoto also recalled what Windy Bridge had said. In the past, the great Tang was very easy to talk to. If one came over to give a small gift, one would receive a generous reward. If one said a few nice words, one could even receive a large reward. But it was useless. Japan. They had set up a technical college and spent a lot of money to get in. But they could not learn anything. Even the most basic technologies were locked up. Li Longji could not even reward the craftsmen to Japan. All the changes were because of the Zhang and Wang families. The more Yamamoto thought about it, the angrier he got. He suddenly said, "Why don't we think of a way to sink the ship?" "Sure." Feng Qiao Shoji put his index finger in front of his mouth. Yamamoto had already covered his mouth. "Do you want to die?" Feng Qiao Shoji asked in a low voice. He knew that Zhang Xiaobao, Wang Wan, and Li Longji were on this ship. How could he not be on guard against them? Yamamoto waved his hand, indicating for Yamamoto to let go. After Yamamoto let go of his mouth, he lowered his head and sighed. Compared to the various negative statuses of the three Japanese people, Li Longji's cabin was a lively atmosphere. Li Jun and Pan were thinking that they had a father. After this father gave them so many things, they felt that he was a good person like their mother. He was the kind of person that they could tell stories to. Thus, Li Longji began to listen to his daughter tell the same story over and over again. Every time he heard it, he would praise her and make Pan more energetic. Accompanied by the music, Pan danced again. From time to time, she would stop and look at Li Longji. She would continue dancing after Li Longji praised her. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan accompanied her. Occasionally, they would listen to the news from the people who were monitoring Feng Qiao Shoji. Wang Wan had just received the latest information. Looking at the lively scene in front of her, she said to Zhang Xiaobao, "I thought of a poem." "What poem?" Zhang Xiaobao asked subconsciously. The curvature of the postnatal confinement shines on the 9 provinces. Wang Wan only said one sentence. Zhang Xiaobao knew what she was going to say. "I also thought of a poem. Waning orchid sends guests off in Xianyang Way." Wang Wan rolled her eyes and nodded. She knew what Zhang Xiaobao meant. The next sentence of "Waning orchid sends guests off in Xianyang Way" was, if the heavens have feelings, the heavens will also grow old. However, Zhang Xiaobao was definitely not referring to this poem. He was referring to another poem, "Should the remaining brave chase after the cornered enemy." I'm not saying that I pity the Japanese. I just feel that the 3 of them are really patriotic. I'm lamenting about the vicissitudes of life. It's not easy for everyone. I want to make it easy for them. I want to find them and tell them that I'll teach them all the techniques. I'm afraid that they won't accept it and suspect that there's something fishy going on. Humans are like this. Let them work hard to bribe. Only then will they believe that it's true. Zhang Xiaobao expressed that he was helpless. He didn't want to waste too much time with Feng Qiao Shoji. However, they didn't want to cooperate, so he could only slowly grind them down. Wang Wan changed the topic. "Where's Xiaobei? I saw them wandering around the door just now." "Ask them." Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand and signaled for someone guarding the door to come over and ask. This person was really clear. Xiaobei and the others went outside to the deck and said that they wanted to feel the wind on the river to see if it was tough. They wanted people to wear skewers and eat barbecue. There was only one opening left around the barbecue. The other 3 sides were covered with cloth curtains. They were afraid that the wind would blow the smoke in all directions. They were probably already eating by now. "Look, they learned it all from you. They say one thing and do another. How can they feel the wind when they're surrounded by 3 curtains?" Wang Wan said to Zhang Xiaobao with a smile. "Wisdom, this is called wisdom. Moreover, they didn't learn it from me. They learned it from you. You know how to attack a city and weaken the enemy's morale. Surround 3 sides and lack 1. Otherwise, the losses will be great. It's easy to have the effect of a desperate army winning the battle. Zhang Xiaobao argued irrationally. Who said that? I can surround them completely and not attack. I can surround them from all sides. Wang Wan argued. Then I won't commit suicide. I'll cross over. Are you scared? I'll make it so that you can't sleep well. You'll always dream of me killing my way back and making you scream for help in the middle of the night. Zhang Xiaobao chuckled. Help! Help! Someone has fallen into the water. Just as Xiaobao's voice fell, a cry for help could be heard from outside. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao got up and ran outside. They were afraid that their younger brother and sister would fall in. The Yellow River was very cold. What if they caught a cold? Crow's beak. Wang Wan even complained to Zhang Xiaobao. If it's really that effective, then I'll call for the entire world to be unified and put under Great Tang. Zhang Xiaobao had already rushed to where his younger brother and sister were barbecuing. Seeing that Xiao Bei was gone, he immediately stood at the side of the boat and looked down. Beside him was Feng Qiao Masayoshi, who felt aggrieved in the cabin and came out to call for help. This made Zhang Xiaobao instantly think that the 3 of them were the ones who pushed Xiao Bei down. Feng Qiao Masayoshi didn't care about the people around him and didn't know that Zhang Xiaobao suspected them. Just now, when he came out for a stroll, he smelled the fragrance of barbecuing and looked at the scenery on both sides of the Yellow River. He planned to wait for Xiao Bei and the others to finish barbecuing and ask for 2 skewers to eat. He believed that Xiao Bei wouldn't refuse. In the end, he saw a woman washing clothes on the shore not far away. She was hitting her clothes with a stick. Beside her, a 3 or 4-year-old child wanted to reach for something in the water and fell in. Hence, he anxiously shouted for help. At this moment, his thoughts were all on Xiao Bei. He didn't care about the people on the other boats who kept jumping down. This was because after he shouted that someone had fallen into the water, Xiao Bei suddenly rushed out of the water. He looked around and then jumped down. He did a series of actions in the air and took off his half-cotton clothes, leaving only his undershirt on. Feng Qiao Masayoshi had to admit that he was dumbfounded at that moment. He was afraid. If something happened to Xiao Bei and he shouted for help, wouldn't Zhang Xiaobao skin him alive? Hence, he stared at the water and prayed that someone would save Xiao Bei. But when he saw what happened, he was stunned. Xiao Bei, who had jumped into the water, shuttled through the waves of the Yellow River at an astonishing speed. It went straight for the child who had fallen into the water. As the child floated up and down, he could only see a small black dot with hair. Feng Qiao Masayoshi watched without blinking. He saw Xiao Bei's amazing swimming ability and saw the people who had jumped down from the boats either gather or disperse. He saw the life-saving equipment falling down like rain. For a moment, he felt like he was in a dream. The woman washing clothes on the shore also jumped down anxiously. However, she didn't know how to swim. As soon as she jumped down, she floated up and down with the waves. Immediately, a few people took the initiative to swim over to rescue the child. Zhang Xiaobao also came over to take a look. He saw his sister stop moving for a moment. Then, her head dived down and disappeared. The people who had jumped down from the boat in front of them and swam closer were doing the same thing. Feng Qiao Masayoshi felt that time was passing very slowly. The sky seemed to have darkened. Zhang Xiaobao also took a few deep breaths. Suddenly, Feng Qiao Masayoshi felt that the sky was bright. The sun had risen. He saw the child who had fallen into the water earlier being held up like the moon surrounded by stars. At the bottom was Xiao Bei. While the people on the boat cheered, Xiao Bei had already placed the child on the platform that everyone had raised with their arms and started performing first aid. Feng Qiao Masayoshi had learned this first aid movement in the Four Seas Academy, but he had never seen anyone perform it in such a situation. After a short while, the child reacted. First, he coughed. Then, he looked around blankly. Then, he started crying. This caused another round of cheers on the boat and on the shore. The woman was also brought over by someone. They found life-saving equipment and put her on. Then, they approached the boat and used a rope to hoist her onto the boat. At this time, they were already very far away from the place where the accident had happened. The water was still flowing, and the boat was still moving. However, many people's hearts were frozen in that short period of time. When Xiao Bei came up, Zhang Xiaobao didn't need to go over. Someone wrapped Xiao Bei up with clothes. Someone also brought over bowls of ginger soup and distributed it to the people who had jumped down. It was the same on the other boats. Fengqiao Masayoshi secretly wiped away the cold sweat and excited sweat on his forehead. He stared fixedly at the busy scenes on the boats and the blooming smile on Xiao Bei's face. However, there were huge waves in his heart. He finally experienced the power of the Zhang family and the Wang family. From the moment the child fell into the water to the successful rescue, it only took a short while. However, what was reflected was the speed of the Zhang family and the Wang family's emergency response speed. Everyone was on the boat, and the ginger soup was ready. Tacit understanding, efficiency, and division of labor were so clear. They were busy but not chaotic, fast but not impatient. Zhang Xiaobao walked in front of his sister and touched her dripping hair. "Our great hero, quickly change your clothes." Xiao Bei was still in a state of excitement. He shook his head and said, "It's nothing. My cotton robe was washed away, and the goldfish bag and silverfish bag on it are gone. It's worth it. Children can't swim well. Why didn't they obediently stay by the river? Why did they go to the middle of the river? They were washed to the middle of the river. You can't do that. If you don't change your clothes, you'll catch a cold and get an injection." Zhang Xiaobao smiled and threatened. When Xiao Bei heard about the injection, he hurriedly ran into the cabin. His legs moved a few times and disappeared without a trace. After Xiao Bei left, Fengqiao Masayoshi carefully came over and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Lord Zhang, I was the one who shouted for help just now. He came to apologize. If he didn't shout, Xiao Bei wouldn't have been the first to jump." The people on the other boats naturally saw the situation and arranged for rescue. He was grateful to Xiao Bei in his heart. He was good at swimming. Not only did he not get into trouble, but he was also the first to save someone. Zhang Xiaobao didn't understand what he was thinking. What did he mean? Why did you specifically tell me when you shouted? Do you want me to reward you? I plan to reward you with the technology of the first-generation steam engine. How can you be at ease with it? Got it. Zhang Xiaobao could only reply casually. If I didn't shout, Inspector Zhang wouldn't have jumped, Fengqiao Masayoshi explained. Oh. Zhang Xiaobao understood and comforted him. Just jump. Other than the water being cold, there's no other problem. Don't take it to heart. I still have to thank you for shouting. If you were any later, the child might not have been saved. I'll treat you to dinner tonight. Fengqiao Masayoshi didn't expect this outcome. He thought to himself, Zhang Xiaobao, you're really not worried. The Yellow River in early winter. Aren't you afraid that your sister won't be able to come up? Even though he thought this, he said something else. Thank you, Lord Zhang. Treat me to dinner. There's no need. I was also shocked just now. I'll go back to the cabin to rest first. He didn't dare to eat at the same table as Zhang Xiaobao. He was afraid that he would be schemed against. Anything could happen when he was with Zhang Xiaobao. All right. Men, get a doctor to take a look at Fengqiao. Zhang Xiaobao made the arrangements out of courtesy. He turned to the remaining 8 siblings and said, Thank goodness you guys didn't jump. I wanted to jump, but I didn't dare to. If I jumped, I might freeze and cramp. I would have to wait for someone to save me, little Yuan said honestly. It's rumored that Xiao Bei is good at swimming. Today, I've seen it for myself. Look at the Jinwu guards that I brought with me. They are said to be the best at swimming. Look at your family's protection team. They really can't compare. Li Longji's voice sounded. He was in the cabin just now and heard someone shouting that someone had fallen into the water. He also came out to take a look. He walked slower than Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, but he also saw the scene of Xiao Bei rushing towards the child who had fallen into the water. Then, he saw the cooperation between Zhang Xiaobao and the Wang family's guards. He sighed in his heart. Zhang Xiaobao had to be humble. He said, "Your Majesty's guards are used to protect your Majesty. They won't be separated. Furthermore, all my guards are good at swimming." Not all of them jumped just now. Those who felt that they couldn't swim well would be a burden if they jumped. "I don't intend to rely on the protection of the Jin Wu guards. It's fine as long as my guard of honor is set up properly." "Xiao Bao, do you know why the child fell into the water?" Li Longji didn't care about the face of the guards at all and said on the spot. The Jin Wu guards lowered their heads and didn't say anything. Firstly, they didn't dare to refute the emperor's words. Secondly, they knew that they were the ones who had jumped down just now. None of them would be able to come up. Li Longji asked for the reason. There was no need for Zhang Xiaobao to send someone to ask. The mother and son who had been rescued had already changed their clothes and came over to kowtow. At first, the woman didn't know what the fleet was for. Because it was rented to Japan and Xinluo, there was no flag on the ship. While the woman was grateful, she was also worried that she wouldn't be able to go home in time. The ship had already gone far away. She was afraid that the ship would have to wait for a place with a dock before it could dock for her. If that happened, the man at home would definitely be anxious when he came back. When she learned from the maid who had changed her clothes that this ship was not only the fleet of the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families in Sanshui County, but also the emperor, the woman was completely relieved. No matter how ignorant she was, she knew that there was no more reassuring combination in the Tang Empire than the current team. According to the reliable way that the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families did things, the men at home should be able to get very accurate information. She brought her son and left with the fleet. Whenever the emperor wanted to let her go, she would go down. Of course, she still had to kowtow to thank him. This kowtow had to be kowtowed. Not to mention saving her life, even if she didn't save him, she still had to kowtow when she saw the emperor. Her son was really lucky. Even when he fell into the water, he could still meet a heaven-like benefactor to save him. Thus, the woman brought her son over. The child had already forgotten the danger just now. He was holding a piece of cake in his hand and eating it with all his might. He felt that it was very delicious. Under his red eyes, there was a small mouth covered in cake crumbs. From time to time, he would stick out his tongue and lick it. When the mother and son arrived in front of Li Longji, the woman's legs had already begun to tremble. This was the emperor. After taking another step, she could no longer control her legs. With a plop, she knelt down and kowtowed with all her might, but she couldn't say a word. Without Li Longji's instructions, the woman had just kowtowed a few times when someone came over to stop her. The woman took 2 deep breaths and found that her son was still standing there eating. She hurriedly scolded, "Li Zi Fudi, why haven't you kneeled down to His Majesty yet? Have you not been beaten enough?" As she shouted, she stretched out her hand to get her son to kneel. Li Longji impatiently said, all right, I don't lack people who want to kneel. Your son was lucky to have encountered Xiao Bao's team. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be able to retrieve his corpse. I ask you, why did your son fall into the water?" The woman was frightened by Li Longji's words. Her face instantly became deathly pale. Only when Li Longji asked for the reason did she regain her composure. She looked at the child, then looked at the emperor, and said in a low voice, This woman was washing clothes. Lotzi fell down while playing. This child really doesn't let people have peace of mind. Why did you bring the child to wash the clothes? If we leave the children in the school, there will be someone to take care of them." Li Longji first thought of education and suspected that the school there was not good enough. Your Majesty, not, enroll age, enroll at school, 5 years old, otherwise, children, make trouble, the teacher, cannot teach, lessons. The woman explained and looked back at her son. Her face was full of helplessness. Li Longji nodded his head and turned his head to look at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao had been waiting for a long time. He knew that Li Longji would look at him. After looking at Li Longji's eyes, he spoke first. Your Majesty, do you have something to ask this subject? Chapter 971. Li Longji looked at Zhang Xiaobao and thought to himself, since you know that I'm going to ask you, how can you not know what I'm going to ask? Seeing that Zhang Xiaobao was playing dumb, Li Longji said to the woman, Tell Xiaobao what I just said. The woman knew who Xiaobao was. That Zhang Xiaobao who had given birth to a child that looked like Zhang Xiaobao, and the one beside him was naturally little fairy Cuckoo. This time, the woman wasn't nervous anymore. She looked at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and whispered, Good, very good. They're a pair. How did these children grow up? Look at them. Zhang Xiaobao could tell what the woman was trying to say from the movement of her lips. He quickly interrupted, I heard it just now. The villages are scattered, and transportation is inconvenient. Many of the villages have a small population. I really don't have any good ideas. Money doesn't help. After saying this to Li Longji, Zhang Xiaobao turned to the woman and said, Sister-in-law, I'll get someone to send you back in a moment. I'll think of a way to solve the problem of the children's safety. This matter is too important, and it can't be taken lightly. The woman only understood the first part of Zhang Xiaobao's words. She didn't understand the second part, so she thanked him again and again. She led her son, who was still eating, back to the cabin. She didn't need to return the clothes she was wearing. She was lucky because her son was wearing Li Jun's clothes. They were around the same age, and they fit quite well. After the woman left, Li Longji was worried. He asked Zhang Xiaobao, Xiaobao, you really can't think of an idea? I've never seen you in such a difficult position before. Zhang Xiaobao patted his head in distress and looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan also frowned. To Li Longji, this was a small matter, but to her and Zhang Xiaobao, it was a huge matter. The problem of the children's safety and guidance seemed small, but it was thousands of times more difficult than the questions in the imperial examinations. It would affect a country system and involve many aspects, which would give rise to even more difficulties and problems. Li Longji didn't think that it would be difficult. Spending money was like having merchants pay for schools. If the merchants couldn't do it, he would do it himself. His bank had a lot of money. Xiaobao, you can use my money as you please. Settle this matter well and I will reward you handsomely. Zhang Xiaobao didn't reply. He cursed in his heart. Of course I can use the money from the bank as I please. Do I need you to tell me that? If I really do things well, the child's happiness will be my greatest reward. What kind of reward can you give me? Gao Lisher was also worried and asked, Xiaobao, you usually have a lot of ideas. Look, you did a good job with Operation Chaoyang. You even solved the problem of the older children. Wouldn't it be easier for the children? How is it so easy? Why didn't I notice? Zhang Xiaobao mumbled. He rubbed his temples and said, Wait for me to go back and think about it with Cuckoo. After saying that, Zhang Xiaobao didn't wait for Li Longji to say anything. He pulled Wang Wan and went straight into the cabin. He didn't even care about his sister, who had just dried her hair and ran out to continue the barbecue. The two of them went into the cabin one after the other. Zhang Xiaobao leaned against the couch and said, Oh my God, Li Longji is just standing there and talking. A full man doesn't know the hunger of a hungry man. When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's complaints, she wanted to laugh but couldn't. This was because she knew what Zhang Xiaobao had to face. After thinking for a while, she asked, Xiaobao, can we have a woman in each village who is responsible for taking care of the children? She doesn't need to do anything else and is only responsible for looking after the children. What do you think? No. As soon as Wang Wan finished speaking, Zhang Xiaobao immediately objected. For example, there are 20 families in a village with 9 children. 5 of them are studying in school. Every day, they have to walk for more than 2 hours to go to school and then walk for another 2 hours to come back. Or they can just live in school. There are still 4 children left. They are still young and can't go to school. It's too far away, and they can't live in school. They can't bear not seeing their family for a long time. According to what you said, it's not a problem to find a woman to take care of the remaining 4 children during the slack season. But since it's not busy, why let her take care of the children? It's better for the mothers to take care of the children themselves. During the busy season, normal women also have to work with the children. In your village, there are 20 families, and one of them is idle. Even if there is only 1 child, the other 3 mothers have to do her work. Each of them has to do 1/3 more work. Do you think it's possible? Wang Wan shook her head. Impossible. 1/3 is too much. How can we divide the work equally among the villagers? Why should we? That's called eating from the same big pot. Those who benefit and those who don't benefit will have to contribute, and those who don't benefit will naturally not do it. Zhang Xiaobao asked again. The two of them had a heated discussion about the problem of preschool children. It wasn't because of Li Longji, but because they wanted to do better. They were worried about the road conditions and transportation. Outside, Li Longji didn't plan to return to the cabin, so he barbecued with Xiao Bei and the others. Li Jun and Pan Er also looked on eagerly. Xiao Bei thought for a moment, then asked someone to bring over eggplants and lamb slices for the 2 little guys to eat. The 2 little guys were very happy. They didn't care about what they ate, as long as they played with them. Xiao Bei, what did you think of when you were saving people? Li Longji suddenly asked. Xiao Bei lowered his head and smiled. The expressions of the other 8 children were also very rich. This was because their older brother had said that the most disgusting thing was when a person did something at a critical moment, and someone insisted on asking them what they thought. For a question like this, there was a formula for the answer. One was that I didn't think of anything. The situation was very tense, and I only thought that I had to save people. My older brother had said that this person was also disgusting. Since you didn't think of anything, then what did you think of? There was also another formula, and that was... Uncle Emperor, when I heard someone cry out that they had fallen into the water, the first thing that came to my mind was that this was my Tang Empire. The person who had fallen into the water was most likely someone from my Tang Empire. Moreover, they had fallen into my Tang Empire's water. I couldn't just watch and do nothing. Secondly, the reason why I made this decision was because of you, Uncle Emperor. You are the Emperor, and I often accept your teachings. You taught me to be a caring person, a kind person. Thirdly, I thought of my grandfather. I remember that when I was very young, my grandfather... Xiao Bei. Li Longji interrupted Xiao Bei's words in a deep voice. He really couldn't bear it anymore. It was too fake. Those who could face this kind of statement calmly were all capable people. They were even more capable than him, the Emperor. Xiao Bei chuckled twice and fed Li Jun and Pan Er a mouthful of eggplant. He said, okay, I'll tell you the truth. At that time, I first thought about where the person who had fallen into the water was. I had to see them before I could save them. After I found a shadow, I directly jumped. When I jumped, I found that the cotton robe was too much of a hindrance, so I had no choice but to take it off. Fortunately, I moved quickly and took it off in the air. Otherwise, it would have been more difficult for me to jump down. I even had time to adjust my position when I entered the water. It was so painful to hit the water directly. After entering the water, I didn't think about anything else. I just swam towards the place I just saw. The place I said I saw was not the original place. The water was still moving, so I had to calculate the position. All that was left was to swim as fast as possible. As for the movement and the frequency of the chi summoning, I have already practiced it to the point that it has almost become instinct. There's no need to think about it. When I caught the person under the water, all I thought was, don't die. That's all. Swim, swim. Li Jun opened her mouth and pointed at the grilled fish. Xiao Bei nodded, yes, it's swimming in the water. Jun Er is really smart. Wait for sister to pick out the bones and I'll give it to you to eat. This fish was caught by Xiao Bei. She woke the child up and taught the others to take care of it. She swam to the side of the boat and grabbed a fish that was watching but not helping. She gouged out the fish's eyes. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to catch it. She then carried the fish with a rope in her arms and boarded the boat. Li Longji was also clear about the origin of this fish. He really admired it. He had seen heroes catch fish with their bare hands in the Yellow River, but he had never seen a child catch fish with her bare hands. Seeing Xiao Bei, as a child, patiently pick out the bones in the fish and feed the meat to the younger child, Li Longji felt a sense of enjoyment in life. Thinking of children, Li Longji became worried again. He sighed again and asked Xiao Bei, how do you think we should arrange for the children who aren't in school to be protected together? Look, it was the adults who brought the children to work today, but the children fell into the water. Take the money and choose a place. When the adults work, put the children there. Set up several places like this in a county. Xiao Bei flipped the fish over as she spoke. The side that she had just eaten had already been eaten. Children were also very good eaters. But a village is very small. There are only a few children, and it's also very far from the county. If we arrange for someone to take care of the children, we'll have one less person to work. The children can't walk too far by themselves. It's troublesome. Li Longji also thought of this point and blurted it out. When Xiao Bei was feeding Li Jun and Pan again, the two children couldn't eat anymore and turned their heads away. Xiao Bei put the meat in his mouth and said, "Let's move together. A few villages or a dozen villages together, and choose 2 or 3 people to take care of the children. If they can't work, we'll give them money. Uncle Emperor, you have a lot of money in the bank. This year you have 100 million strings of money. How much money does a village have? You can take out a small portion, it's enough." Li Longji didn't take Xiao Bei's words seriously. He was just saying it to vent the depression in his heart. When he heard Xiao Bei mention moving, he smiled and said, "The adults work far away. It's still not enough." "Why not? It's better for the adults to work far away than the children who can't go far by themselves. People who do business like to have more people. Farmers, didn't you release a lot of military horses? When people work faster, they can make up for the time lost. Military horses are not farm horses. They can be ridden. When they reach a place, they can rest for a while before working again. Uncle Emperor, horses are really important. When there are more horses, they can work faster. They can be several times more efficient than a person." Xiao Bei ate 2 pieces of fish and remembered that there were other people who hadn't eaten yet, so she sent the fish over. Xiao Hai took the fish and said, "It's not several times more efficient. It's dozens of times more efficient. How much is the difference between a person's land and a cow's land? Horses plow faster than cows. I reckon that older brother and older sister will have to worry about food in the future." "That's right. It's not easy to deal with more food." Li Longji agreed. Suddenly, he was stunned. He stared at Xiao Bei and asked, "What did you just say?" "What did I say?" Xiao Bei was startled. "Quick, call Xiao Bao and Cuckoo over." Li Longji didn't need Xiao Bei to repeat himself. He already had an idea. He ordered people to call Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. While Li Longji and Xiao Bei were talking, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were also discussing in the cabin. "If there's no other way, then let's combine the villages. Children can't run back and forth, but adults can. Besides, with military horses, it's convenient to travel. Horses can be ridden. Since we can't eat from the same big pot, then let's use a centralized model and form an incentive system. It looks like we need to get more oil and use the diesel engine on farming as soon as possible. That way, there's no need to be afraid of the distance. The diesel engine is so fast. After going back and forth, it's back to efficiency. Only when people have more time can they rest, have fun, and take good care of the children." When the people sent by Li Longji arrived at the door, Zhang Xiaobao summarized the 2 people's thoughts. There was a knock on the door, and the person said that Her Majesty had summoned them. The 2 people walked out. Wang Wan said while walking, after combining the villages, the conflicts will become more prominent. Many villages are mainly based on surnames. The competition for the village chief position will be very fierce. There will also be more conflicts between small interest groups. That's the matter of the local officials. If the local officials are not capable and can't handle the affairs of the villages, then we will let Xiao Bei handle the local officials. Zhang Xiaobao delegated the responsibility. Wang Wan paused for a moment. It looks like we have to do more promotion work for Li Longji. Once we have the film and phonograph, the publicity work will be easier to do. We still have to finish the cartoon first. Xiao Bei asked a few days ago, and the standards of the current artists are too low. Just ask them to draw a simple cartoon. As for expressing too much of the style from the lines, it's not like it's a landscape painting. Don't they understand that simple is the most popular? Don't tell me they want the children to see whether the lines of the characters and scenery in the animation are bold and graceful. If they really want to express it, they can just use the actions of the characters and the environment in the animation to render it. Why bother with the lines? Just draw a 2-meter-tall bear with a fierce expression. Even if the children are stupid, they won't think that it's gentle, right? Speaking of this matter, Zhang Xiaobao started to criticize the person he had found to draw the animation. There were many artists who insisted on doing this and that. Even if they could use their brushes to pierce through 1,000 layers of paper, could it be reflected in the animation? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan talked along the way. When they arrived at the younger brother and sister's barbecue stall, Xiao Bei was roasting chives. It was not that she wanted to eat them, but she was really setting up a stall to sell them to the other people on the ship. Chives for 1 copper coin for 3 skewers was considered very cheap. Because it was already early winter, if she sold 3 skewers, she would earn 1 copper coin for 9 skewers. Next to her, Xiao Yuan was roasting squid neck. This was not for sale, so he planned to eat it himself. Of the 5 skewers, he would eat 3 skewers. He brought 2 skewers for Zhang Gang and helped Xiao Bei roast 4 skewers of garlic. When he sold them, he would earn 1 copper coin for 2 skewers. Li Longji and Gao Lishi, as well as Empress Wang and Wu Huifei, were watching from the side. Li Longji lamented to Gao Lishi. These were really Zhang Xiaobao's younger siblings. It was not a matter of money, but the way they thought about how they could earn back the money they spent by eating barbecue. It was really difficult for them to decide to spend 3 million strings of cash without hesitation when they were at Hong Farm. Gao Lishi expressed his agreement. Empress Wang smiled but did not say anything. Even Wu Huifei, who did not get along with Zhang Xiaobao and the Wang family, could not put her resentment on Xiao Bei and the others. This was because when Xiao Bei and the others were seriously roasting things for every copper coin, they could easily throw away the goldfish bags and silverfish bags when they were saving people and then say that it was worth it. The strong contrast made Wu Huifei blush with shame. She could not judge Xiao Bei and the others. She knew that Xiao Bei and the others had a precious candy house. The things inside were really good. It could be said that they strived for perfection, but they were also really expensive. Ordinary people could not afford them. However, it was such a candy house that when Xiao Bei and the others followed Her Majesty outside the city, they were willing to take out a large amount of candy to give the children in the capital to eat. If one said that they were stingy, that was right. They haggled over every penny. If one said that they were generous, that was also right. If one said that they were very afraid of death, there were 2 experts beside them whose movements could not be seen clearly. They were usually surrounded by guards. If one said that they were willing to sacrifice themselves, Xiao Bei would be the first to jump in without hesitation when he knew that someone had fallen into the water. Wu Huifei was momentarily at a loss. She muttered, Xiao Bei and the others should not be in heaven, but they definitely do not belong in hell. Where exactly are they? In the human world. Wang Wan, who was walking over, happened to hear it. She added, it has nothing to do with Maxim Gorky. Then who is it? Wu Huifei asked passively. A person who talks about the Haiyan. But I don't care, because we have the Shuiyun. The Haiyan struggle is self-defense, while the Shuiyun's fight is for the common people, Zhang Xiaobao explained. Wu Huifei knew who the Shuiyun was. It was the male eagle that the storyteller said, who dares to fly in the sky, alone guarding 1,000 miles with a soaring eagle. It was said that when one eagle soared to the sky, the other eagles retreated. Just like Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan when they were in their respective fields, no one dared to go against it. When the moon was full, the stars would dim. Li Longji did not care about the riddle. When he saw Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, he rubbed his hands excitedly and said, Xiaobao, Cuckoo, I just asked you two about the matter. You still haven't thought of a solution, right? Hee. I was eating barbecue when I suddenly thought of this matter, so I asked Xiao Bei. Guess what Xiao Bei said? Let me give you a hint. The problem has been solved. Hee. Li Longji wanted to say that he had solved the problem himself. If it were any other official, he could only tacitly agree and not say anything else. But when he saw Xiao Bei working hard for every copper coin, he really could not say it. How shameless would that be? If he really dared to say it, Xiao Bei would only reply with an innocent smile and he would jump off the boat. That was because there was no place in this world for his face. It was too big. Zhang Xiaobao did not ask for the details. He first went to his sister Xiao Bei and asked, How much are you selling it for? 3 skewers of Chinese chives for 1 copper coin. If I sell 3 skewers, I'll make a profit. Is it expensive? Xiao Bei's Chinese chives were almost done roasting and she asked as she sprinkled seasonings on them. It's not expensive. You're too honest. Normally, you sell 3 skewers for 1 copper coin. It shouldn't be the fresh Chinese chives that you eat. It should be brushed with gutter oil and then roasted with Chinese chives that are about to rot. Zhang Xiaobao spoke about business. Ah! Xiao Bei's hands trembled. Then what if I get a stomachache? Aren't you going to rub sauce on the Chinese chives? You can mix the anti-diarrhea medicine into the sauce and rub it on the Chinese chives and you won't get a stomachache. Zhang Xiaobao continued to give ideas. Then if I rub flu medicine on the Chinese chives, will it be able to treat colds? Xiao Bei deduced. Wang Wan's eyes widened when she heard this. Zhang Xiaobao, you're going to teach Xiao Bei this? With your status, do you really need to do this? Zhang Xiaobao understood that Wang Wan was not talking about his current status. He smiled and said, I'm just playing with Xiao Bei. I have to let her know some of the dark methods. Only then will she be able to hold up the light. After speaking to Wang Wan, Zhang Xiaobao turned to Li Longji and said, Your Majesty, what did you want to say just now? Your Majesty, Your Majesty? Li Longji did not say anything. He was already dumbfounded. Fortunately, Zhang Xiaobao did not use his methods on Great Tang. Chapter 972. The chives are ready. Who wants more? Xiao Bei shouted. Someone immediately came in to take the chives and give Xiao Bei the money. After Xiao Bei gave the change, he took the chives and left with satisfaction. They were not craving for barbecue. If they wanted to eat, they would go to the kitchen and tell the chef, who would cook for them at night. They were just there to play with Xiao Bei. Xiao Bei didn't think too much about it. He happily accepted another roasted hairy egg deal. He took out the cooked hairy egg and skewered it on a bamboo stick to roast. This egg was not an accident during the incubation process. It was man-made and stopped from hatching. There were no germs in it, and it was specially made for the guards of the inner courtyard to eat. It was a non-medicinal supplement to strengthen the body. The 9 children all had work to do, but they were not busy. After roasting the egg, Xiao Bei was not busy, so he did not have to worry about it for the time being. He turned his head to listen to his brother. Li Longji had already told Zhang Xiaobao what he had just said to Xiao Bei. After Zhang Xiaobao heard it, he did not say that he and Wang Wan had also thought of it. It was not important who had thought of it, and there was no need to deliberately prove that he was smart. Xiaobao, tell me, what do you think? Li Longji asked. It's okay. Since your majesty is willing to pay, why not add another one? Zhang Xiaobao could not come up with a better idea. It was too affected by technology. Li Longji was looking forward to Zhang Xiaobao's idea. Wang Wan also wanted to hear what Zhang Xiaobao had considered. Zhang Xiaobao first helped Xiao Bei flip the egg and said, "Each family will have 2 children and let them raise them. For every child born, the imperial court, your majesty, will take out a portion of your own money as a reward to the person who gave birth to the child. The child must be alive. The initial rule is that it can be 20 strings of coins or 30 strings of coins. Then, every child will receive a sum of money from birth until the age of 15 as child support. For example, 3 strings of coins a year is not a small amount. This money is enough to raise a child. A child can earn 3 times a year, and the discount is 250 copper coins a month. You won't even need to use up all your clothes and food. You can buy toys and storybooks for your child." Li Longji listened attentively, but more than that, he didn't understand. If the person speaking wasn't Zhang Xiaobao, he probably wouldn't have been able to hold himself back from slapping him. "Isn't that stupid? If I have money to burn, why should I give money to someone else for giving birth to a child?" The merchants were willing to pay for the school because they needed people with knowledge to work in the future. There was a rule that merchants who did not pay were not allowed to work with graduates of the school. Merchants had another purpose, and that was to sell their goods. As long as they were large-scale merchants, they would not fork out the money, and the people would consciously not buy their goods, forcing the merchants to fork out the money. But why would he care if the people had children? They would have children of their own and were willing to have more. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, Li Longji asked in doubt, "Xiaobao, do I have enough money? If we really do as you say, won't there be people who don't work and just focus on giving birth to children? If those who are willing to work find this way to slack off, what will the country do?" Gao Lisher also felt that it was impossible. "Xiaobao, do you think there will be problems?" "There will be." Zhang Xiaobao nodded. "There will be many problems, but there is no need to be afraid. There is a circle here. There will never be a lack of welfare, tax, production, consumption, and conflicts. It will just keep shifting, cycle by cycle. As for me, I am only in charge of medical care and education. I will not provide any help to the elderly with children. I will only increase the punishment for the children who don't want to retire. If there really comes a day when it reaches that level, it means that the social system is rotten to the core and needs to be reshuffled." Wang Wan fell into deep thought. She understood what Zhang Xiaobao meant. If there came a day when the government needed to use other means to provide help to the elderly in society, it would mean that the income of the individual was not enough to support the elderly, and it would also mean that there was a decline in morality. When the government provided help to the elderly, not only should they not praise the means used by the government, they should instead question how the government had turned society into such a state. Then they realized a problem. This government was not a machine. It was full of living people. This government did not appear out of thin air. It had gradually developed to this point under the influence of society. Everyone in society, or rather, their ancestors, were responsible for this. Then, when did it start? Wang Wan could not think of a reason. Zhang Xiaobao could not think of a reason either. He could only guarantee that he could still control it. If he really wanted to find a reason, then he would take it that people followed the laws of the earth followed the laws of the heavens followed the Tao, and the Tao followed the laws of nature. The blooming and withering of flowers, the rolling clouds, and the development of society could not escape this circle. As such, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan began to face each other in silence. Li Longji and Gao Lisher could not think of what Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were thinking. They could only consider the problems in front of them and the problems that might arise. Li Longji's thoughts were very simple. He was worried that there would be a day when he would not have enough money. When Xiao Bei shouted in alarm and hurriedly sprinkled seasonings on the hairy eggs to get someone to take them, Zhang Xiaobao and the other 3 came back to their senses and listened to Xiao Bei apologize to the guard. "I'm sorry, I was distracted and one side of it was burnt. You eat it first, and I'll cook it for you again. It's free, and I'll cook it for you later as well." I'm sorry for wasting your time, so consider it my compensation, okay? If you don't agree, we can still discuss it again. Xiao Bei handed over a few strings of hairy eggs and sincerely said to the guard. Although the guard was part of the seedling protection team, Xiao Bei did not want to use her authority as a master to pressure him. After all, her current identity was that of a businesswoman. She had always believed that businessmen who only knew how to shirk their responsibilities and did not know how to protect the interests of their customers would not be able to do business for long. Unless the government and the businessmen protected each other, then, as her brother said, society was on the verge of a reshuffle. Of course, Xiao Bei did not know that the reshuffle that her brother was talking about did not mean that there would be a reshuffle tomorrow. Perhaps it could still persist for a few hundred years. After all, there was the suppression of force. However, when it really could not be controlled, the people who connived and promoted the situation would pay the price with their lives. No one could blame anyone. Compared to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who thought too much and tired themselves out, the life of the guard was much happier. He only needed to train hard, protect the people of the main family, and then live a happy life with the main family. He did not need to make any policies in the Tang Empire. If one had to say that he had to pay more, it would be the current situation. He held the skewer of hairy eggs that had been roasted on one side and said to Xiao Bei, "As a buyer, I have to say something." "Say something? Then say it. Just don't scold me. Being scolded is not within the scope of the compensation I promised. I can only compensate you in terms of money and attitude. This attitude does not include being scolded by you." Xiao Bei corrected her identity as a businesswoman and emphasized the extent of what she could bear. The god thought to himself, "Even if you want me to scold you, I don't dare. Who in the Tang Empire dares to scold you?" "However," he said, "when I said that I wanted to buy hairy eggs, you did not ask me what kind of hairy eggs I wanted to eat. This shows that you do not value me. Do you admit this?" "Ah. Yes, I did not ask." "Okay, then what kind of compensation do you want?" Xiao Bei wanted to explain, but the guard did not let her. If she took the initiative to explain, it would show that she was guilty and quibbling. "First, you have to compensate me with a skewer of chives and then satisfy my request for the heat of the hairy eggs," the guard said. "Just a skewer of chives? You are not allowed to go back on your words. Hairy eggs, what do you want?" Xiao Bei was overjoyed. This person's request was too low. "I like to eat hairy eggs. I want to eat hairy eggs on both sides. You have to roast the other side of the hairy eggs as well." The god made his request seriously. Xiao Bei was stunned. She nodded and said, "Then give me the hairy eggs in your hand. I will continue to roast them. This is simple." "Thank you. I will roast another set of hairy eggs for you. This is not a compensation, but a reward. In the future, I will definitely ask others what they want first." The corner of the guard's mouth twitched slightly, but he still looked serious as he nodded. Zhang Xiaobao could see that the god was nodding with difficulty, probably because the texture of the black hairy egg was really not that good. Xiao Bei happily turned around and continued to roast the hairy eggs. Zhang Xiaobao bowed slightly to the guard and said, "Zhang Yong, thank you." The guard called Zhang Yong by Zhang Xiaobao hurriedly returned the bow and said, "Young master, please do not be like this. This is what I should do. I am a member of the vigorous protection team, not a cavalry that is only responsible for killing." After Zhang Yong finished speaking, he went out and continued to perform his duties. Li Longji sighed with emotion again. He understood Zhang Yong's words. The vigorous protection team was more powerful than the cavalry. Not only did it protect the safety of the people being protected, but it also took care of psychological matters. Otherwise, how could the seedlings grow strong? The vigorous protection team was a laughable and childish name, but it was a group of people who made their enemies tremble. Those who could enter would be honored because of this name. After sighing with emotion, Li Longji returned to the previous topic. "Xiao Bao, will I really not run out of money?" "Not at all." Zhang Xiaobao said with certainty, "Actually, I have wanted to do this for a long time. This is called the central government stimulating consumption. But in the past, the Senongsi Temple and the Ministry of Works could not keep up with the pace. I have endured for a long time, but it is about time now. When this policy is implemented, there will be a burst of consumption in a short period of time. Within a year, not only will your Majesty's money not decrease, it will instead increase like a geyser. That will be the time when I need to be busy. I need to promote productivity while suppressing the depreciation of the currency. Because I have decided to enter the circle that was mentioned earlier. Li Longji and Gao Lishe still did not understand. They only felt that the circle should be very large and difficult to control. Otherwise, Xiao Bao would not have made an expression that looked like he was going to commit suicide outside the Meridian Gate. Wang Wan comforted, "It's fine. At most, we can use unconventional methods. First, we will come up with a law. Whoever dares to cause trouble will be dealt with. There is no need to draw a fixed line there. The true balance is not left, right, and not in the middle. We have to act according to the situation. I am not worried. Don't we have a way to divert the domestic conflicts?" Zhang Xiaobao became relaxed again. Wang Wan took a deep breath and nodded. "Xiaobao, in terms of calculation, I am really not as good as you. Did you think about many things during the imperial examinations? Especially when you were talking to your father?" Wang Wan recalled. At that time, Zhang Xiaobao was very happy. Then, the people from the Ministry of War came and gave the idea. Gao Junmin and the people were happy. Then, Jiang Tsen from the Senongsi sent vermicelli. Zhang Xiaobao told the other party that he would give up his family's technology. Then, he expanded the capital and said that he would give up military horses. After that, he planned to go to the original place of the Turkic Khaganate. After a year, he would stabilize Japan and Xinluo and start to attack Duosha. In other words, even if the preschool children incident did not happen today, Zhang Xiaobao would still push the Tang dynasty's economy to explode. Then, when it was the most difficult to control, he would send troops and shift the economic pressure in the country. When he won against Duosha, he would have military benefits, economic benefits, and resources. Politics would also be more stable. This was the true ability and style of an international swindler. Li Longji and Gao Lishe were also aware of the series of actions Zhang Xiaobao had taken since the imperial examinations. The two confirmed once again that Zhang Xiaobao did not want to be emperor. Otherwise, he would have succeeded long ago. Li Longji looked at Xiao Bei, who was working hard to finish Mao Dan, and said softly, "You guys have to work hard and learn all the skills of your brother and sister." Then, he looked at his eldest son, Li Jun, who had eaten his fill and was sleeping in his mother's arms. His eyes swept over Empress Wang and Wu Huifei. He pondered for a moment but did not say anything. When Gao Lishe saw the emperor's action, he took a deep breath and looked at Li Jun in a different light. Zhang Xiaobao also secretly observed for a moment. He helplessly shook his head and said, "It's not that I want to scheme. Sometimes, some things are forced. Running away will never solve the problem. Since that's the case, let's face it head-on." Wang Wan exhaled. "Actually, it's not that big of a deal. It's fine if we progress quickly. If there are problems, we'll find a way to solve them. If we don't consider the environment, I can fight until the end right now, so I'm not worried about losing. But it's precisely because of the environment that we can't avoid that we have to push forward bit by bit. I don't want to rely on advanced weapons and go deep alone. In the end, others will suffer a crushing defeat and lose more than just the lives of a group of soldiers. Yes, we can't lose. I'd rather increase the cost than bring craftsmen and technicians with me just to save time and money. I'm willing to take the risk of being attacked if the supply line is too long, but I definitely won't bring non-combatants with me and let others have a chance to steal them. In that case, if one of our armies is completely wiped out, the enemy will only steal weapons and ammunition, as well as clothes and food. They can take people as slaves, but if they want to..." Without waiting for Zhang Xiaobao to finish, Wang Wan interrupted, "If they want to rely on the finished products of firearms and ammunition to develop technology, we'll tire them to death. I can give them 100 telegraph machines, but they won't be able to copy them. Even if we give them diesel engines, they won't have the metallurgy skills. Li Longji listened from the side and felt extremely proud. How many people were jealous of the great Tang's industrial and agricultural system? He could easily fly into the sky with a hot air balloon. Humph, this is what it means to be an emperor. How could the other small countries dare to declare themselves kings? Have you ever flown before? As he thought about it, Li Longji's mind became restless. He stood up and used a pair of tweezers to pick up a few oysters from the barbecue in front of Xiao Yuan. He dripped 2 drops of soy sauce on each oyster and sprinkled a handful of chopped green onions. He smiled at Xiao Yuan, who had been robbed of her food, and brought it back. He first tasted one oyster, closed his eyes, and enjoyed it. Then, he asked Zhong Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Xiaobao, cuckoo, I'm always bored in the palace. Look, I've created a pear garden. In fact, I have nothing to do. When you go to fight Duoshe, can I hold the fort for you? Empress Wang and Wu Huifei, who were chatting, suddenly stopped talking. Gao Lishe, on the other hand, opened his mouth wide. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan nodded at the same time and said, Sure, it'll be fun to lead the imperial troops. Xiaobao, cuckoo you. Gao Lishe didn't need to close his mouth. He directly pointed at Zhang Xiaobao. But Zhang Xiaobao spoke on behalf of him and Cuckoo. But, while we can guarantee your safety during war, we can't guarantee that your majesty can adapt to the climate. You have to train and adapt for a period of time. Otherwise, the doctors may not be able to think of a solution. When Gao Lishe heard Xiaobao say, but, he was relieved. Empress Wang and Wu Huifei continued to talk about the fabric of the clothes. Li Longji was most annoyed by Xiaobao saying, but, and so on. Once he said that, his wish couldn't be fulfilled. But now, he was the one asking for help, so he couldn't be angry. Otherwise, without the support of Xiaobao and Cuckoo, the officials would definitely not let him go. Thus, Li Longji asked softly, Xiaobao, you usually have the most ideas. Think about it, how can I adapt? How can I go to the original Turkic place where you are going to spend a few months after the new year? When Xiaobao heard Li Longji's words, he fell silent again. He used his sleeve to take 2 oysters, one for Wang Wan, and the other for himself to eat after it cooled down a little. Xiao Yuan came over with a small bowl in his hand and said, Brother, sister, I have oyster sauce here. It's pure. I'm not afraid of salty. When I have time, I'll make real oysters for you. There's no need to roast oysters. They're only delicious when eaten raw. I have to process them first before I choose. I don't want you to get sick from eating them. Zhang Xiaobao signaled his younger brother to put the oyster sauce on himself. Wang Wan also hadn't eaten yet, so she waited with him. Xiao Yuan, when we go back, I'll treat you to good food. Li Longji also pushed the oyster over. Oh, there's also Uncle Emperor. I forgot just now. Xiao Yuan deliberately said. Li Longji endured it. Who asked him to snatch other people's things? He was in the wrong. Zhang Xiaobao slowly ate the oyster, then smacked his lips twice and said, Your Majesty, you don't have to go to the original Turkic place. There are soldiers everywhere. It's cold and not lively there. You can go to the original Tubo place after the new year. Li Longji gave Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan an oyster each and asked, Is it fun there? It's not fun, it's to adapt to the climate. Not only do you have to go to the original Tubo place next year, you have to go there more often. It's best if you go there 3 times. If your body can take it, you have to go for at least a month each time. Zhang Xiaobao replied. 3 times? Isn't that too much? Li Longji wanted to go, but he was afraid that others would object. Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand and said, It's not much. If not for the fact that you still have to stay in the capital, this subject would want you to stay there for half a year. The last time you go there is when this subject and Cuckoo go on an expedition. This subject has to ensure that the supply line is unimpeded. Furthermore, there can't be only one supply line. Wang Wan added, That's right. Although it's a forceful attack, I don't want too many people to die. Ammunition is just money. I want to continuously fire the cannons. Even if the other party is only one person, as long as he can pose a threat to the soldiers of Great Tang, I'm willing to bombard him with 10,000 cannons. My air force can't keep up, and I don't even have a plane. Therefore, I'll use the artillery battalion to make up for it. I request that every member of the special forces at the front be equipped with a radio. Even if I lose the support of the Air Force, I want to reach the level of a single soldier. If he sends a report, I will fire the cannons. Even if he says fire at me. Chapter 973. Wang Wan's tone was firm, which meant that no one could refute her words. Li Longji was excited when he heard this. He wished he could become a scout and rush to the front. Xiao Yuan, who was delivering the oyster sauce, also became excited when he heard that there was going to be a war. He took the bowl of oyster sauce and quietly returned to his seat. He pulled Xiao Bei over and whispered to him. Xiao Bei contacted them one by one. After this batch was done, they did not take on new jobs. A group of children gathered together to discuss something. Gao Lishir was also very happy. He had the official position of a general and wanted to go to war. He thought that once the war started, he would go to Tubo with the emperor to win the hearts of the people and help Xiao Bao ensure the supply line. Then, when the front line was smooth and there was no danger, the emperor would go to the front line personally. First, it could increase the morale. Second, show the emperor's power, and third, relax. Empress Wang was also very excited. She waved her fist and said, "Fight, Cuckoo, fight for me. When the time comes, His Majesty and I will hold the line for you." She was like this. When Li Longji wanted to be promoted, she helped to plan. Unlike ordinary women, who were worried and helpless, she took the initiative to help Li Longji. It could be said that she was learned from her family. However, later on, because they did not have children, Li Longji, as the emperor, needed women who could fight. Coupled with Wu Huifei's excellent genes, she fell into a passive position. But because Wang Wan liked her, everything changed. She was still the empress, overseeing the great Tang imperial harem, and she had a son and a daughter. At the same time, she learned more tricks, but the things in her bones did not change. She still liked to play sports with the palace maids in the imperial harem. She also wanted to participate in the war. Now, the opportunity came. Wu Huifei, who was beside her, frowned deeply. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan rose at an unstoppable speed, she played two small tricks. When others easily saw through and counterattacked, she was afraid. She knew that Wang Wan and Wang Wan had a bottom line. Because of her own identity, the extent to which she gave in was greater than the other county magistrates who caused trouble in Sanshui County and the officials who caused trouble in other places. However, she would not indulge them endlessly. Now, she no longer planned to overthrow Empress Wang. She only wanted to stabilize her position. However, after hearing the conversation between Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, she did some calculations. If Wang Wan was willing to throw down tens of millions of cannons for the life of a soldier of the Tang Empire, it would require an astronomical amount of manpower and money to produce and transport supplies. Thus, worried that Wang Wan would destroy the foundation of the Great Tang in one battle, she had no choice but to speak up. "Cuckoo, Xiao Bao, those who like to fight will surely perish. According to your plan, it will be a waste of manpower and resources. Do you really want to squander all the capital that you've saved up over the years? Duoshi is very far away from our dynasty. Why would he take the initiative to find trouble? Is it really because he had some friction with Duoshi in Tubo that he launched an expedition? You have to know that a superior army should break the enemy's schemes. Why not use the momentum of an army to force them to retreat, just like the Tubo and the Turks? Sister, you can't think like that. We have to fight for our country. It's better for us to fight than them. Isn't that right, Cuckoo?" Empress Wang saw that Wu Huifei wanted to make trouble and interrupted. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao sighed at the same time. Then, Wang Wan signaled Zhang Xiaobao to speak. Zhang Xiaobao had long been used to taking the lead. He explained, I also don't want to fight. I want to subdue the enemy. However, the Duosha tribe won't surrender. They are expanding very quickly. There will be a battle sooner or later. Since that's the case, let's fight. If we don't fight, where can I get oil? If we dig up all the oil in the Tang Empire, won't we leave behind war preparations for our descendants? After Zhang Xiaobao spoke, Wang Wan added, it's inevitable to use the people, but it won't hurt the money. War is a very profitable business. The prerequisite is to win. I'm confident that I can beat them strategically and tactically. I guarantee that I have an absolute military advantage. Zhang Xiaobao nodded repeatedly. In fact, there was oil in the sea, but he couldn't extract it. He could only stare at it. Even oil on land was not easy to extract. If he wanted to extract oil from Daqing, it would be troublesome. He could only dig. Wu Huifei didn't deal with Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family, but she had always been concerned about the Tang Empire. A few days ago, she learned about the separation and collection technology of the diesel engine and oil. Now that she heard Zhang Xiaobao mention it, she asked, can you make the diesel engine run and can be filled with oil? Do you have duosher? I've seen the cans. They are very good for burning, just like methane. It's a pity that you can't light a methane lamp. Yes, duosher has it. It can't be judged by just having it. It's very rich and convenient to extract. It's relatively convenient. It's better to leave it for them to use in the Tang Empire. Zhang Xiaobao first answered the first question and then introduced the second one, methane lamps, yes, oil separates. In fact, there is something more convenient than methane lamps that can be used as a lamp. It's kerosene. To be honest, if we only use kerosene for lighting, it's better to use methane lamps and steam to generate electricity. That's because it's a waste. It has more uses. In my opinion, oil is more precious than gold. Gold can only be used when the military force between countries is equal, but oil can determine whether the military force is equal. There was no doubt that Wu Huifei's genes were excellent. When she heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, she understood that the black thing had many uses and could even determine the outcome of a war. She then asked, if we win, can my son, Qing help? Yes, if he is willing and can withstand that kind of environment, it's not a problem to let him lead a large number of troops to guard the strategic location. I believe in him. Zhang Xiaobao gave a quick affirmation. When these words came out, other than Wang Wan, everyone was stunned. Wu Huifei was especially affected. How magnanimous and confident must one be to dare to say this? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan agreed to let Li Qing lead a large number of troops to guard the strategic location. It was very useful to the Tang Empire and could even determine the strategic location. Firstly, it showed that they were open-minded. Between the interests of the Tang Empire and their own selfishness, the two of them were willing to choose the former. They also believed that they wouldn't use this to blackmail them. Secondly, they were showing their strength. If there was a problem, they would be able to solve it immediately. Just like before, they didn't care if the other party caused trouble. If they really wanted to deal with the other party, it would be a piece of cake. Your Majesty, why don't? Wu Huifei said gently to Li Longji. Before she finished her words, her meaning was clear. Li Longji did not look at Wu Huifei. Instead, he looked at his son and said, Qing doesn't have much to do recently. He's looking for Xiao Bao and Cuckoo to ask about his knowledge. He's also playing games with Jun and Pan As an older brother, he should act like one. Gao Lisha had been with Li Longji for many years. How could he not understand Li Longji's meaning? He said, Your Majesty's words are exactly what I'm thinking. When I look at Xiao Bao, I feel that they're very good. After I took Xiao Bao as my adopted son, I chatted with Zhang Zhong in my spare time. Zhang Zhong even said that he was worried that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were smart and would scheme against their younger brother or sister to fight for the family inheritance in the future. Later, when he arrived at Luzhou and learned that his wife was pregnant with twins, He was busy helping the people and mountain people in Luzhou deliver the babies so that the doctors could familiarize themselves with the twins. It was only then that he learned that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were very caring toward their younger brother and sister. When he saw the abilities they had learned, he was at ease. The two of them were willing to give up the family inheritance with a smile. In my opinion, Li Qing isn't inferior to Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. At this point, if Wu Huifei continued to say that she did not understand, she would be pretending. When she looked at Li Jun, the first thought that came to her mind was that Great Tang might have another crown prince. The son of the first wife was indeed extraordinary. At this moment, Wang Wan glanced at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao responded with a slight pout. Hence, Wang Wan smiled non-committally. Her thoughts were the same as Zhang Xiaobao's. It was not because of one's identity that they would let one do whatever they wanted. Instead, it was because of one's abilities. If Lu Shan were to step up, it would be a real trap. Wu Huifei's heart sank for a moment, but she quickly recovered and said, "Speaking of Qing she's slow-witted. She can't compare to Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, but she has a good heart. She'll definitely help Great Tang for a long time." She understood that as long as Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were around, her son would never be able to rise to the top. This was the result of birth. Li Jun was lucky enough to be by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's side at a good time. How many skills did she learn from them? Looking at Xiao Bei's 9 children, it was clear that they had nothing to do with their birth parents. This was because they did not have the same parents. All of them were by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's side almost every day, receiving their education. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were all elites. They were really smart. Although Xiao Bei was usually the only one making a fuss, the other 8 children were not stupid at all. They just let Xiao Bei take the lead. Even the children of the royal family were not as fortunate as them. They would not scheme against each other. Every time they encountered a difficult problem, they would immediately work together to think of a solution. For example, just as Wu Huifei was thinking about all kinds of things, Xiao Bei and her 9 children walked over majestically. As usual, Xiao Bei took the lead. The other 8 lined up with Xiao Bei as the center. Not doing business? Zhang Xiaobao asked with a smile when he saw his siblings coming over. Yes. Xiao Bei was a little nervous, so her smile was the brightest. She was like this when she was nervous, thinking that she could confuse others. However, she definitely did not know that her brother studied psychology, and her sister was also proficient in interrogation techniques. Zhang Xiaobao also smiled and waved his sister over. He hugged her and asked, "What kind of business are you going to do? Or candy house? Opening a branch to Duo Fu? Are you going to say that the sweetest thing is the honey pastry from Baby Candy House, and the happiest way to eat it is to taste it with your family?" Wang Wan burst out laughing. She had already thought of this when Xiao Yuan left just now. Xiao Bei pouted and nodded. Then, she said with grievance, "The saddest thing is that when you think of many ways to hide your goal, you realize that there is nowhere to hide." Haha. This time, even Li Longji laughed. The other 3 also laughed. "Brother, we can also help. Really, we can fight anyone. We have been worried at home since the last time we fought against Tubo." Xiao Bei saw that there was no way to make her brother fall into the trap, so she could only say it directly. "Of course. How can my siblings be bad?" Zhang Xiaobao said with certainty, "But selling candy won't work. Go back and think of other business. Tell me when you have thought of it. When the time comes, I will bring all of you to war." Xiao Bei became spirited. She jumped out of her brother's arms and said to the other 8, "Solve it. Retreat. Go back and discuss. I don't believe that there is anything that the 9 of us can't do." You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.